Which one is the best large electric luxury sedan? Here in our comparison test today, the BMW i7, the Mercedes EQS, the Tesla Model S, the Genesis G80 EV, the Nio ET7 and the Lucid Air. Which one is best in which specific element? Which one is the best for you? Let's find out together. Going in depth, let's go.
Is this the new king of luxury? The Chinese manufacturers are pushing to the premium and luxury market. Mercedes has presented the EQS. Now BMW says, hold my Bavarian beer, we can do better. But is it true? Can this all-new BMW 7 Series, including the electric i7, be even better than Bentley or Rolls-Royce? We're going to find out together here with Thomas on Autogefühl for you. This one here you can see in the two-tone paint, 12,000 euros or dollars extra. You have the black on the top and here, for example, the aventurine red on the lower part. Different color combinations are available. Throughout this review, we'll show you different colors. Huge double kidney here, very impressive. In the extended shadow line, you can get it in all black, but you could also get it in a more subtle note. Here, for example, in the two-tone paint, I think there's a transition between the top paint and the grille, which is not ideal, I think. Or what's your take? Slim integration of the daytime running lights in the top and this split here, that was highly criticized by a lot of viewers as well, that you have the split between the daytime running light and the real headlamp unit. So I would like to hear your take on the front design here of the 7 Series in the new generation. G70 is the internal code. Join us in the comments. Let's go with the rest. 5.39 m or 212 inches is the length of the all-new BMW 7 Series. Of course, that counts for all the versions, no matter which powertrain you pick. And the interesting thing is that if you consider some of the competitors like a Mercedes EQS or a Nio ET7 or a Tesla Model S, this one here is indeed way longer, and they are pushing in that Bentley or Rolls-Royce direction. Rolls-Royce is of course belonging to the BMW Corporation, and Rolls-Royce doesn't want to hear that, but we can show you some features today that it's actually true that they are pushing even more up market. It will only be available in this long wheelbase version. So far they had the split, for example in Germany, more short wheelbase, in the US the long wheelbase was standard. They say now this is the world car, has just one wheelbase. Makes it simpler for us definitely. You see, I also dress in two-tone paint today, but I refuse to wear red or wine red trousers for that one. But you can see here, it's not only that split, here there's another line for that. So it is very, very complicated to use this paint here in the process. That's why it's so expensive. Me personally, I'm more team one tone, so one single paint, but are you team two paint? Also leave me then your comments. Wheels from 19 to 22 inch. These here are already big ones, 21 inch, somewhat still a compromise. Suspension, there will always be adaptive air suspension as standard. An option, there is the so-called driver's package, and this then gives you rear axle steering, anti-roll stabilization, so an even sporty effect, and also better in turning around, turning circle, narrow parking, and so on and so on. So this will also play a major effect. And now very interesting from the drag coefficient, 0.24 here for the BMW 7 Series or i7. And this is worse than some of the competitors, because here usually they go for a raindrop design, but BMW more upright, more space also for the headroom and so on, because they did not go for the raindrop design, rather German Bauhaus, a little bit more upright, and they did some small tweaks for the wind efficiency. You can see it, for example, also right there. So a lot of work in the wind tunnel. But the question is it still very efficient, although they are a little bit worse than the competition in the drag coefficient? But it also has then, you can see here, higher trunk, more space in the rear and so on. So this has more advantages as for this, especially the luxury sedan segment. Soon, of course, more about the range for the i7 when we drive it. It's really hard to get it focused here on camera, this detail, this extra strip. And I just wanted to show you, when I touch this here, this transition, you can feel no transition at all. This is all perfectly smooth. So incredible paint job. And can you see that? This crystalline structure and the inside of the daytime running lights here on this top part here. This is such an attention to detail. And indeed, never before there were so many interesting details with the 7 Series, and this generation is so much different from the predecessor, also almost like never before. And this vehicle here is deep frozen gray in the color, a matte dark gray color, almost, I would say it's almost matte black, isn't it? But they call it deep frozen gray. Yeah, this finally now fits my outfit even better. And this is also the i7, by the way. But you can pick this color, of course, also for the petrol engine. Where do you see from the exterior if it's the EV or the petrol or maybe also diesel in Europe or the plug-in? Well, the thing is here, the electrified models here have the blue ring around the BMW logo, and that's basically it. The rest, if you want here the double kidney in black with the frame here, again, extended shadow line also on this one, two-tone paint and so on, you decide that on your own, you decide it yourself. It's just, they are more in the strategy, hey, we don't want the EV to look different. That's the 7 Series, and you can pick it in the engine version or the motor version you like. Very interesting approach. What do you think about that? And also at the rear here, the one thing you can see, we have the blue ring here around the BMW logo to differentiate it, and we also have the i7 logo right here. Once again, extended shadow line with blacked out rear lamps for more sinister look. So yeah, this looks really massive, doesn't it? Here it says xDrive 60, that's the first version of the i7. It is also all-wheel drive, one electric motor in the front, one electric motor in the rear. The acceleration figure is 4.7 seconds to 1 kilometer or 62 miles an hour. That's half a second slower than the V8. However, later there will be the M70 version of the i7, which will then be the quickest version of all of the whole lineup. They will also then have some hardware changes to the rear electric motor. Very interesting. The top speed for this one already 240 kilometers an hour or 150 miles an hour. So it's not really much slower than the petrol version. They go a little bit faster, but yeah, I think we can easily live with that even in Germany on the German Autobahn. We also have two more colors for you today, by the way. The oxide gray. Is that also gray? I'm not sure, but it looks really interesting. And also the mineral white that works very well also with contrasts, for example. Which color would you go for? I'm still looking forward to see one in Thomas Blue, of course, but I mean, these matte colors they offer here are also very striking. So which one is petrol, which one is EV? Can you tell? Let me tell you. Left side is the petrol one, right side the EV. You just see here the blue ring around the logo. And here with this vehicle we have a very dark, elegant blue vehicle color. That's cool. And this one, as you can obviously see, has the illuminated double kidney. And the option is called Iconic Glow. And you have this outline then there and also welcoming function when you approach the vehicle. And as another option, there are also this Swarovski crystals option. And this you can also see here at these headlamps. We also had at our other vehicle. This is the thing where you always can see these special details, you know, how they are worked out, this top part of the daytime running light. Let's take a look at the turning indicators or hazard lights here, in this case on both sides. That looks also pretty special here in the front, right? But also at the rear and also in the interior. Let's take a look. The US spec version has the red turning indicators. Of course, then, for example, European spec one, where the yellow turning indicators would look a little bit more distinctive. Here, look at that, the ambient lighting. Woo, hazard light, ambient lighting. Haven't seen that? What a great idea, right? It's, you know, it's just initially and then it turns off, but probably when you are somewhere having it on for a longer time that you don't get annoyed by it, but that's pretty special, isn't it? And also when you approach the vehicle from the rear, it's some kind of welcoming signature. That's really impressive. And look at that interior light at night, even more impressive than in this case. And when you open the vehicle, you also get some kind of welcoming display. And then also the ambient lighting becomes more obvious. But even when you close the vehicle again, even from the outside, when the doors are closed, it looks really amazing. And when you get away from the vehicle again, at some point, closes off, and then also says goodbye with this signature. The smartphone app offers some cool features. For example, if you have the automatic doors, then you can also open the doors via the smartphone.
And that looks very impressive, especially when you open them all four at once. And what you can also do is use the remote parking function. So we know it maybe from Hyundai, Kia and Genesis that they do that with the key fob here, also with BMW with the smartphone app. And then you can also ease your car out of parking lots or put them in when they're very narrow.
If you need some extra footroom, this is the version to go for. I'm just kidding. This is the cutaway model here, where we can see more of that battery. This is the i7 cutaway, and these cells here combined make a total capacity of 102 kilowatt hours net. Recharging will be 10 to 80% state of charge with DC charging in 34 minutes. It's the optimum at the 195 kilowatt peak. And here at the closed side, you can also see the two-tone paint. When you have the top part here in the gray or silver styling, then it has even more contrast, and you can see this separate fine line even better. And once again, no transition here, or you can feel no transition with your finger. It's really very well made. Well, will it worth be $12,000 or euros to you? So you rather press here in this upper corner and then you move a little bit more backwards and you do not block the sensor. So when I press it here, the door does open automatically like this. And the question is, what about, you know, like the safety thing? So when I close it here from the inside again, and I'll be, well, it still applies pressure. Oh, a little bit, yeah. So it stops, yes. But actually, it's not too pleasant, I have to say. Let me stand up and then see again. Oh, yeah, so you could knock away children with that. It won't hurt so much and there won't be like a major accident. Yeah, but you just have to be aware of that, definitely. And the thing is also, what about from the outside? Pressing it here, and then, you can see, there it stops. So this is then better with the sensor. So there it stops before it does hit everything. So yeah, that's the safety thing on the outside. Well, when you're on the inside, you just have to learn to control the doors a little bit better. Inside of the doors, a lot of different materials are being used, really screaming out. Bowers & Wilkins sound system here behind that. Seat control in this crystalline look, but you can still move that thing. You get a haptic feedback, unlike with the Mercedes at the moment, with the new models. Then here, fabric with wool shear. This is this kind of interior, but you will also get a new so-called Veganza sensor tech. It's like a more evolved sensor tech style if you get that interior. And here, high gloss black piano lacquer. That is, I think, the least favorable material we see here at the inside of the doors. Steering wheel in a new design. This is here the M Sport steering wheel. As for the seats, this one here, the fabric wool shear mix. So this is like this, more fabric approach to it. Why not in the luxury segment? Reducing animal skin leather already a little bit. The top part is animal origin, however. And then there's a full animal skin wrap still. And new, however, here with the new 7 Series is the so-called Veganza material. It is basically the same appearance like the new sensor fin in the BMW X7 facelift, only that they use different suppliers. But they're both then kind of an elaborated sensor tech material, animal-free, less resource use, less energy used, better to animals, better to the workers and so on. So this is where it is heading to, definitely. Some limitations for the Veganza material as for the market choice. In Germany, we can basically get it for all the versions. In UK, you can get it for the i7, for the all-electric version. And in the US, they make it the other way around. They don't offer the i7 with the Veganza material, and also not here the 8-cylinder. There you have to go for the 6-cylinder. I think not a good strategy to limit this offer there, because the material is superb. It has also the very same durability, but way less impact on everything around us. So we've seen it in the X7, it is perfect, and also way to go than here when speccing this vehicle. As for the comfort here when seating, for the seat ergonomics, yeah, it's really very comfortable, very luxurious. And that's also the first thing when you take a look at the competitors. The Nio ET7 recently, I think, had also good comfort in seating. Tesla Model S and Mercedes EQS, this one here has definitely way more comfort already when sitting in the front here. So for the seat ergonomics here and how you feel, this is one of the most luxurious sedans, definitely. And yeah, I mean, from the comfort in the front, they can easily, I think, even be better than Bentley or Rolls-Royce. So you feel with everything they do here, they are pushing towards the segment. However, user interface, you've already seen, they're getting more and more digital. Is that the right thing to do? We'll also tell you more about that. Interior overview, well, very clean first impression. And told you, Mercedes EQS is all about ambient lighting. BMW says, hold my beer, we can also do ambient lighting. And that's where we ended up with. So here, this looks really amazing. So this like crystalline structure on the top. It's not glass though, because that would have been, you know, not really crash safe. And here you can then switch through the different colors. And I mean, it's really bright. It's 12 o'clock noon at the moment here, and you can still very well see that. So that's actually a pretty cool idea to bring more spice to the interior. However, as for the vents control, if you take a closer look right here, this is also digitalized. And do you see here this, you know, this green dot jumping? This looks a little bit more like Space Invaders or so, isn't it? Here on the driver and the co-driver side, by the way, it's the same. You can see the transition here between the door inside panel and this cockpit panel, how the ambient lighting is changing. So yeah, once again, especially at night, that's a very impressive feature. You still have buttons you can really press here, for example, for the cruise control. This is like one button, but then the central one is separated. Digital instruments, left side speed, right side here the RPM, brum brum. And then you can also change what you want to see in the middle. You can have here the music view from the CarPlay. You can have the GPS, car internal GPS, but it's also possible to show Apple Maps here or Google Maps with Android Auto. And there we go. This is the front view camera. It's also a nice integration. Then you can also change the whole layout if you rather prefer, for example, this or this. Yeah, or maybe this. Yeah, and you can also have just a central speed in the middle if you want it rather reduced. Head-up display also with more elaborated view. It is always more crisp in real life than it is on camera. Yeah, I'll also see more about it when we drive the vehicle. Now the infotainment system, here the temperature always stays in the lower part. I do prefer manual climate knobs, you know that, but this one, at least it stays here, but not a real progress, I would think. Climate menu, you can also now turn on and off the AC function. They upgraded that, and here, for example, is the seat cooling and the seat heating and steering wheel heating, very important for wintertime. This is my favorite wintertime car function, actually. Then here, there's also a main menu available like this, but I think OS 8 is overkill. I did prefer OS 7. This one, of course, has just so many more functions overall. And yeah, I told you about the interior ambient lighting function, for example, that can be activated right here. And the My Mode selection is also interesting. So here you pick the different driving modes, and then also the ambient lighting changes accordingly, and also some parameters for driving. Here in Sport Mode, for example, the bolsters of the seat go a little bit more inward, for example. You can still control everything from down below, so you don't have to use the touchscreen. So you can also control the CarPlay like this. Android Auto also available, both wireless, and the integration is really cool here, definitely. And this Bowers & Wilkins sound system, I can tell you, it is just pleasure to listen to that one. Great song, by the way. Wow, such a great sound quality, amazing, wow. Lower middle console, this inductive charging pad here, and hard to pick it up on camera, but this is here a small slot, and it is sucking away, yeah, I did say that, sucking away the air from the smartphone, though it doesn't overheat while inductive charging. So, and then here you have the cup holders. You can open them, slide like this, and they are also adaptive and hold bottles tight. Did I just say, like in one or two sentences now, slot, sucking and tight? Here again, more high gloss black piano lacquer, don't like it. The crystalline knob here is quite cool here, and then you can still have this, oh, sound. Yeah, that's always cool. Here the GPS hotkey, for example, a home hotkey. So you still have some things to control that you're used to. This here is the shifting lever, and this is basically the only thing you can differentiate if you're driving a petrol engine or the electric version. Here D and S, and whereas in the i7, the electric one, you have D and B for the recuperation mode. Actually, we have my favorite split opening like this for the middle console. Not too much space here, 2 USB-C chargers. And well, BMW did not hand me over a key, but rather just a smartphone. And then you have this app here, and you can lock and unlock your vehicle. Oh, they also did this, original two-tone paint design on there. I do prefer a normal knob, and we are also charging our camera accus here, camera batteries. Meanwhile, so yeah, it is usable, but not too much space. What about you? Would you go for the smartphone-only solution? We know that Tesla customers also use that together with this key card, or do you want to hold a real key fob in your hand? Why did Michel's door close? So Michel just got a hit in the he just got hit in the back by the door. Ah, but you did hit the automatic door button like this one here, right? Yeah, you did hit this one with your arm or something. So you basically, Michel, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Yeah, funny things like these can happen with this new digitalized interface in the vehicle. And this is always the question, like with the key fob, I do prefer a real key fob, Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to BMW and do a Karen, like, I want to talk to the manager. I want a real key fob. I paid for this. Yeah, you still get the normal key fob. Yes, that's a good thing, and you can use it. But on these, test drives, they also encourage you to use all the digital functions of the vehicle. And yeah, I sometimes try to keep it a little bit more, down to earth as for the vehicles. So you can still use some buttons here, but I'm not sure, like also with the automatic door opening and closing and so on. Rear area, before we get to the executive driving, being chauffeured position, what about when I'm sitting behind the tall driver? Yes, that's me. Here the legroom is still sufficient. They are not making good use of the space, but there will always be enough space available. And also as for the headroom, and here's the thing, that they did a compromise with aerodynamics, so they could still offer a lot of headroom even with 1m89 or 6'2". And the comfort here, if you compare it to the EQS, is so much better indeed. So BMW clearly wins it here, and I have to say, would I need a Bentley or Rolls-Royce for that and pay even more? I think really not. It is super luxurious in here indeed. And the thing is, when you have the Mercedes comparison, you have to compare this one both to the S-Class and to the EQS. And the difference in rear comfort is so huge to the EQS. S-Class also offers decent rear comfort, yes, of course. But here, of course, BMW decided to have one vehicle for the both electric and the petrol version, and nothing will be different here in the interior, really. That's a very crucial point. The one thing I do criticize with this vehicle is, but that's not only about BMW, it's about all the brands, using this vehicle has become more complicated. So I put up the shade here. So when I want to open the window, here I can also lower the shade manually, but then when I want to put up again, it's not working here. It would be like a logic solution. I just pull this lever and then the shade comes, first the window and then the shade. That would make sense. It's not possible. When lowering it, it goes down, but I can't put it up again that way. Then I have to go here deep in the menu. Yes, I'm continuing with that today, deep in the menu. So, and then I have to switch it here on the screen that this shade comes up. And I wonder, I mean, if you're driving 10 hours all day, and maybe this is kind of like a hobby, it takes more time to use car functions. And I'm keeping myself busy while being chauffeured. That's maybe a thing, but I tend to say I want to have things straightforward and just technology improvement when it makes my life easier and not more complicated. Also, where are the seat controls here that I can like put the seat forward or backward again, just like in 1 second? It's not there. It's again in the screen that they don't need so many buttons. So, and then I have to go to the home menu again. switch to seats, and then control the driving position here, what I want to have. It works, yes, and they've done a great job and everything looks great and so on, but it just takes more time. You will get faster over time, but when we directly compare the old school solution and the new school solution, the user interface is just taking more time now. And this is the thing I meant. So, I mean, considering it is an early, there we go. It's an early production model, so things will still improve, also software-wise definitely, but I just had a screen crash now. I had to wait until the screen reloads itself. So, but when I would have separate seat control here, I could still do that and don't care about the crashing screen. But here, then you have to wait for the screen to restart, and it took like 2 minutes now or something. And by the way, at least what is redundant is the door control. You have three-way. Yes, three-way. I got it. I got that. Thank you. And then you have 3 ways to adjust, to open the door here. When you press this button, it just opens slightly, and then you can press it further. Second way is this button up here. This is then the automatic door opener, and it really opens all the way. Oh, sorry, that gets really bright now, you know. And then we can close it all again. And then the manual way, because this is of course, you know, important emergency failsafe. This is the manual door opener. When all electronics fail, that you can still manually open that door. Oh my God, this is not spacious enough. Yeah, of course. Now we can use the executive being chauffeured position, and I activate it here on the screen. Set lounge position, it is called. There we can see magic. The front seat is moving forward. Let's see. Of course, it takes a while. While that is going forward, I can also show you this one here, the armrest. Again, inductive charging pad. Air is being sucked away. And then here is some more storage with 2 more USB-C chargers. And the quality of the materials, how everything is processed in the interior, is really outstanding. And now, there we go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take my shoes off now. And because you can see here the seat, it's going up. Oh, this is awesome, right? This is awesome. Look at that. Wow. This is really amazing, super comfortable. And then you can also rest your feet here on this, you know, special footrest that is being going up. This is really amazing. Now the seat is going a little bit more backward, and once again, you know, me with 189 and 6'2", this is sufficient for my size. Actually, it's still going. Now position is reached. Maybe I should switch and start traveling just here in this position and get a driver. You want to be my driver? Applications in the comments. That would be awesome, right? And we also can get to know each other, right? So, yeah, wow, this is extremely comfortable. It works size-wise. What a great idea here. So this is really some amazing equipment here. And also the head restraint is super comfortable. So is it king of luxury now? From what we've seen here so far, maybe not king of user interface, but which car is that nowadays? But from the comfort perspective, wow, this is outstanding indeed. And I really don't need a Rolls or Bentley now indeed. And now it's time for the theater mode. Let's try it with the voice input. Hey BMW, activate theater mode.
I will activate the theater mode.
Ta-da! Woo. Yeah, that's a cool effect with the sound and so on, right? So it goes down like this. You always have to ensure that the front seats are also, you know, far away down. Yes, keep using. And then this is here with Amazon Fire TV. And you can have, for example, Prime Video, but you can also watch YouTube. So that would be possible, depending, of course, on the online connection. So here, for example, you can watch pre-downloaded content then, if you have done it before and don't have a Wi-Fi connection. That is one possibility.
Thomas,
Hey,
what are you doing there?
I'm only taking a look at our footage, because that's the thing what you can also do here. So we connected now this MacBook here with an HDMI cable to the screen, and then we can take a look at our footage here, which we have just been shooting. Yeah, I mean, it's very crisp, this image quality, really cool, of course, here in full 4K now, here in Autogefühl for you. Well, to work really with it, that is creating too much delay. That doesn't really make sense. But for example, if you have something, you know, like movies maybe on your laptop and want to have the HDMI connection, that would be possible. You can then select the source, either the Fire TV or then here the HDMI. It is also USB-C connection on the back part, but that is not for using as input. That would have been cool as well, maybe like with a USB-C stick or something, but that's not possible. But yeah, it does deliver you some possibilities, and the, let's say, more straightforward use would be, I mean, here at the back part of the seats, there's USB-C charging, also some mounts for iPad holders. So yeah, at the end of the day, is it really useful, this theater screen? It's great for the show effect, but will people rather use their own devices and watch the thing on their smartphone or on the tablet? Probably yes. Or what's your take on that? And the shade of the panoramic roof, by the way, is going forward. So it starts at the rear here and then is being rolled in the front. And the reason for that is, by that they can also ensure more rear headroom because they are storing it here in the front. That's a very clever idea indeed. You cannot open the sunroof, it's just that blind you can close or open. And the secondary interior here with bright styling. The same style, same color you can also get with the leatherette Veganza material, so that would look and feel the same. And this one here is also an i7, but that's once again from the interior. How can I see that? It's actually just the one thing that is here, the B and the D. So we have the full recuperation mode we can pick here instead of the S mode for the combustion engines, but that's basically about it. Everything else is the same. There's also no compromise as for headroom or something. So it is really, they went for, hey, we built one vehicle and then you pick the different powertrains. But in driving, they will differ. Oh, will they? Well, we're going to find out. Oh, and the blue ring around the steering wheel. That's, of course, the other thing. You can see that it's an electric vehicle here, or the EV version on the interior. This is the trunk of the EV, of the i7. You see here in the petrol version, like this step was a little bit lower. So this whole floor is a little higher. However, in the front, you still have space for the charging cable. It's just that this then here is covered. And the height difference then is that here we are at 50 centimeters or 20 inches, whereas we were at 22 inches or 57 centimeters with the petrol version. So this is the gap then you lose in height with the EV version. I think you can live with that. And here we go. This is the i7, the all-electric version of the all-new BMW 7 Series. And well, the first surprising thing is you hardly feel a difference, at least when driving straight. You now have this great floating ride from the air suspension, and since you feel the shifting, of course, in the combustion engine, but since it's done in a very smooth way, it's not a huge difference. So from the get-go here, there has hardly ever been a vehicle where there are different powertrain versions of it, where the difference between the EV and the non-EV version is so little in the first feeling. So that's really, really interesting. Of course, you have the throttle input is like a little bit more directly, but they also both tuned these vehicles in a way that there also is not the biggest difference between that. So, wow, super interesting. And when there would be like the V8 sound, it would be almost the same. There is also the sound here, these iconic sounds as I call it. We will soon hop to the sports mode, do the same acceleration as we did yesterday. This one here on paper, a little bit less quick in this version. Later, as I said, there will be electric version, all-electric version, which will be even quicker than everyone. And in the sport mode, the sound will be even more enhanced. So we will experience that. But when you're driving straight here now, you basically get almost the same experience, both with the petrol and the EV. this sonorous, low-frequency growling from a 6 or 8 cylinder is, of course, always something that just, appears to your body somehow, That's not necessarily a thing like, oh, we're petrol heads or something. It's for real, also with vibrations and something. So that is kind of cool. You don't feel it here, but since this vehicle has such a great insulation, the difference again is not that large. So now sports mode, and we'll hear more of these iconic sounds. Let's accelerate it out. Let's go. Launch control. Plop, that's 55 miles an hour. Wow. Whew. And you also heard that sound building up. That was pretty amazing. You liked it, Michelle? He's a fan of iconic sound stuff. You can always deactivate it. So everything you hear now from this, you can completely deactivate it. It's just a thing like if you want that. It is not very extreme. So there are electric vehicles where you have more sound feedback. So here they thought with a 7 Series, we don't exaggerate it. In the sports mode here, you hear, of course, more of that. I think it's still subtle enough. Here now in these corners, once again, they feel pretty similar. So the EV has a little bit better weight distribution, and also the center of gravity is lower because the batteries are put in the floor. We've seen the cutaway model. Then again, the overall weight, of course, the battery is quite heavy. So, yeah, but the question is really, what's the result then for the customer? And I have to say, once again, it feels pretty similar. So I can just stress how it was with the slower driving. Also here, it is actually less than expected. There is also this instant acceleration. It's so super smooth. The feeling from the throttle pedal is a little bit more linear and artificial, of course. With ICE, internal combustion engine, you always have some kind of power curve, which somehow feels more natural because it's not that digital, it's not that linear. And to me, this is something, let's say, a little bit more human, you know what I mean? Again, the difference is not that large, and here, wow, it's so well put on the road, doesn't shake up at all. It's a lot of fun, and at the same time, it's super comfortable once again. Yeah, I'm really once again impressed by the driving behavior here. And we don't have it here that we would feel, oh, like because of the weight of the batteries, we are getting pushed out of the corners or something. The big question is indeed, is any of these vehicles here, or any of these versions, you have to say, more fun? And it's a tough question. Sometimes I'm absolutely certain when I have these ratings or these verdicts, and I'm, like, okay, this is more fun or this is more fun. But here, it's both a lot of fun, definitely. Maybe I would say that when you have the combustion engine, it feels a little bit more natural because of that power curve. So it's, to me, it is not that perfect. Like, this digitalized linear power curve of the EV. And because it is less perfect, it feels to me more natural and maybe a little bit more likable. So when I'm just base it on the pure feeling thing, maybe, yeah, I would say the combustion engine is still a little bit more pleasing. I don't need the V8 for that. I would just be fine with the 6-cylinder. I think the BMW 6-cylinder is the best engine pick in the whole lineup across all the models. The inline 6 petrol from BMW is the best engine you can pick there. But that's, on the pure fun side, and also with minor difference. Here the crucial thing is really charging infrastructure. So if you're willing to go EV yet and you have the charging infrastructure, you can as well go for the i7, no problem. If you're driving every day, long mileage, and have no good charging possibility, then of course it's still one of the combustion engines. So I think it really rather comes down to, do you have the charging infrastructure or not? That's really the crucial thing. As for recuperation, so far we're going uphill, but we're soon finishing this uphill run here. And I'll talk more about the recuperation modes. At the moment we're in the adaptive mode, and that means that usually when I lift the throttle, there is rather rolling. Only when here now, the car is in front of me and I'm too close to it, then recuperation is happening. This is somewhat like of a good compromise. The only thing is that it's not that predictable what the car will do. If you rather want that, you can also pull this shifting lever, and then you are in the B mode, and then you have more one pedal driving feeling. So here, always, wow, really strong deceleration. That is a true one pedal driving. So if you prefer that, you can have that. Talking about the driving modes, by the way, as for the steering is crisp and direct. The only thing I would like to be improved, BMW more moved to the direction of, hey, let's make the car easy and light to steer, and by that convey a feeling of being more agile. Whereas the old school approach, especially in sporty vehicles, is more like, hey, let's apply more feeling to the vehicle by giving it a little bit more resistance. And to me, I feel it's somehow cooler when the steering has some more resistance in it. See here in the sports mode, it's still pretty light. So again, it's crisp and direct. Yeah, in the sport mode, you have a little bit more resistance, but me personally as a driver, I would like to have a little bit more resistance in the steering wheel, but it's still fine. And of course, big advantage for the EV is, we went uphill now, and when we go downhill again, we will gain so much energy back. So of course the EV then, especially when there are topography changes, is so much more efficient. And here we go with our test result for today. So it's 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and that means considering a 102 kilowatt hour battery, yeah, over 300 miles of electric range. It's like 500 kilometers. You can see here we've been driving over 200 miles for you today. And this is here, by the way, we gained over 22 kilowatt hours back to the battery by recuperation. Overall, that's a comparable result and a good result. Also, if you compare it to the competition, like the Mercedes EQS, the Mercedes EQS has better wind efficiency on the motorway, yes, but it does not feature a heat pump yet. Probably receive it later. Here the BMW i7 already gets a heat pump from standard equipment, so you're also safe then in winter times.
So I did adapt to the temperature outside now a little bit, and yeah, I think that's also fitting to the vehicle, isn't it? So the question is, we had a lot of questions initially, does it own even Bentley and Rolls-Royce? Yeah, kinda. I don't need a Bentley or Rolls-Royce when I can have that. You just pay extra in price without getting any more benefit, actually. You can have everything with that. Plus, they now also have the new animal-free interior. We haven't had it today. We've already seen it in the X7, and that's absolutely perfect. And that's why they have a more sustainable setup, and they really can combine the luxury and sustainability aspect, of course, as far as possible. Question also, petrol versus the EV here. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really a question of infrastructure. You have to have that. Otherwise, it's definitely more complicated. Here with a range of about 500 kilometers or 300 miles, the EV is slightly catching up at least to the V8. Especially if you have the 6-cylinder, you will have even more range. Of course, the 6-cylinder will be king of range. So yes, the combustion engines will still give you a higher range. That's for certain. The question is your driving profile and is your charging infrastructure ready yet? From a driving experience, both come so close indeed. You can't really say the other one is way more fun than the other one or something. I felt like this low sonorous frequency sound of the 8-cylinder does deliver some more natural fun driving feeling, a little bit just, than the i7. But again, it's not a huge difference. That shouldn't be the crucial point if you go EV or not, actually. And what about the direct competition from the premium manufacturers like Mercedes, for example? Well, especially with the rear comfort, it's easily or way better than the Mercedes EQS and also everything else. The only thing with these new vehicles here, also in this new generation, the user interface has become more complicated. That's also the thing here. You can get used to it a little bit, but still I think at some points they were going in a too complicated direction. Other than that, what an impressive vehicle. Here I can go to Energy Shine, and this is the so-called circus mode. Here, when I accelerate, you see effects. When I decelerate, nothing happens. And yeah, this is the, hey, I invite my friends over to see my cars for the very first time, driving through a tunnel or driving through a night, and everyone's having a party while I'm being not distracted by my friends, nor the ambient lighting. I'm not drunk. And I'm driving, everyone else can get drunk, you know? So, yeah. A full driving review of the Mercedes EQS in winter conditions here. What about efficiency, range, and also charging? Test here today with Thomas on Autogefühl. It's one of the most expensive EVs out there, but is it also one of the best? Let's find out. Let's go. In the front you can see here this closed grille with the small star pattern. That's actually quite interesting. The light strip goes all the way through. Here LED is standard. The digital light is optional. Then you can also really use individual pixels. The color for today is, depending on the market, called Twilight Blue or Sodalith Blue. Well, why Twilight? Because it couldn't decide if it's blue or not. Yeah, the nautical blue is, more bluish tone, would more come close to a Thomas blue here. The length here at 5 meters 22 or 205 inches, and it has this really unique design. You have to say that really, here with this one bow design right here that goes all the way through. However, are you team ugly or are you team beautiful? I'm on team ugly here today. Vote in the comments if you like the design or not. Tell me in the comments what do you think. I would be really interested, because most of the comments I've read so far say that people say, nah, that's not really good design. Tell me in the comments. Wheels from 19 inch, at least in Germany, up to 22 inch maximum, also especially with the AMG version, but here 21 inch wheels today with this like dual design, I would call it that way. In the US it's mostly 20 or 21 inch, by the way. EQS logo right here. Today chrome frames around the windows. It is a very clean design, and the main goal was aerodynamics indeed. So it's more like form follows function. Rear is very interesting. You have that rear axle steering, 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction with the rear wheels, or optional 10 degrees. It's a software thing. It is actually in the vehicle already, but just with software you basically unleash it. I don't like this trend. Do you? Oh, and there's no frunk to be opened. That's not possible. The HEPA filter, the optional one, is stored underneath that. The only thing you can open here is this wiper fluid fill-in right here. Here in the rear, that clean design is actually quite cool, I think. Especially here, the light signature in the rear and the small rear lip right there. You have different power output versions. You start with a 350, for example, on the German market. The small battery and rear-wheel drive. Here the 450 plus. Plus stands for the big battery, but still rear-wheel drive. The 580 would be all-wheel drive. One electric motor in the front, one in the rear. One in the front, one in the rear, that way. And then the EQS 53 AMG. That is basically the same with a little bit more horsepower tune in the all-wheel drive. Here, acceleration figure with this one here, around 6 seconds. Battery 108 kilowatt hours net, the big one, or the smaller one 90 kilowatt hours net. It's not too big of a difference, right? You save around like 8,000 euros then for the smaller version. In the US market, the small battery will probably not be available. However, I think most of the time you will end up with the biggest battery because you just want the highest range, especially also in winter time. Recharging 11 kilowatt AC, optional 22 kilowatt AC, and here maximum of 200 kilowatt DC. But what about the concise charging test? Theoretically around 30 minutes from 10% to 80%. We also have here the charging curve for you. Yeah, that's very interesting because the peak is actually right there but doesn't fall that fast. But the question is, here now also in winter time, is it really the case? We'll make the exact test right now. And now we start fast charging, 10%. Yeah, it says Porsche Engineering, this one here. 10% state of charge. Let's see how fast it goes. So charging power goes up. They have a 400 volt strategy, by the way, here. So it should go to around 400 volt. And let's see here, 200 kilowatt would be the peak power. And let's see, we stop here at about 173. Maybe a little bit more. Now from the inside you can also see that, yeah, around 170 kilowatt, and the total charging time to 100% would be about an hour. But that's not the relevant one, rather to 80%, because the last 20% takes so much more time. And very important, what I did is precondition the battery by driving motorway, and I also set this charging station in the GPS system. Then the car knows actually I want to approach that one. So if you would not do that, then the battery would not have the right temperature, and it could be that we do not reach this high charging power. So we went a little higher to now 180, yeah, 183 kilowatt. And so after 10 minutes, we went from 10 to 36%. So that's already good. And the cool thing is really, you can see here, yes, we did not reach the peak 200 kilowatt, but here the 170 or 180 kilowatt are being held all the time here so far. That's the crucial thing. We're still at 150 kilowatts, so now it's slowly dropping from that top speed we had, but so far still a very good result. And you have to take in mind, this is here a very big battery, 108 kilowatt hours net. So that means like the smaller EVs with these now like 70 to 80 kilowatt hour batteries, they would already be kind of full now. So because here we have already delivered now 63 kilowatt hours in 20 minutes. And even here at this relatively high state, power is still over 100 kilowatt, very impressive. So here, just over 30 minutes and 80 kilowatt hours in just over 30 minutes. That is really impressive. And yeah, there we are. And we've reached 80%, 31, yeah, almost 32 minutes. The key here, actually cool quality, like that, but I'm at war with the door handles. So you can press here in this, stamped area to close it. That's quite easy, but then to open it, I feel that sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. You should press, yeah, this time it works, but often you press like 5-6 times and nothing happens. But you can also open and close it here with the key, that's also possible. Door closing sound, frameless doors. Yeah, that's a soft close. One more time, here, soft close. Yeah, here now you work against that electric motor, that's the thing. Now, and soft close, ta-da. But what is, when you slam it, that sounds very weird then. Inside of the doors, really cool here, soft touch, and also with the ambient lighting you can always see here. However, cost savings, to me, these are cost savings. This is one button here. See here? There's one whole button for cool seats, heated seats, and the memory function. And this is here also, it doesn't give you haptic feedback like it used to be. So it looks like it, gives you some feedback, but it doesn't. So you're like controlling it in thin air. And I'm not sure what to think about it. What I know what to think about is the Burmester sound system. It's awesome indeed. And also nice wooden style interior here. Then the bright interior looks so amazing. Color-wise, this is great. In Germany you can also get Artico leatherette here in the beige color or also in black. However, in the US or in the UK, no animal-free interior available? Why? Why are they doing this? And here, by the way, the animal skin interior, do you see this? Talking about quality, that already looks, really like 100,000 kilometers used or something like this. And I love bright interiors, but bright floor mats are not a good idea. And my shoes weren't that dirty, but it's just, especially for winter time, not a good idea. Seating wise, I would tend just to go for the base seats, because these, more luxurious seats here you can pick as an option are really too plush. You feel like the seat is like blowing you away from the seating position, something like that. That's the closest thing I can describe it. You can't really feel one with the seat. So this is supposed to be the electric S-Class, and I don't feel that well with the seating ergonomics here. It's, yeah, recently a thing with Mercedes. I think they should work on that. They do work on the materials there. Recently seen the EQXX concept car. But however, the German market gets Artico animal-free leather red and also microfiber in the AMG line, but the US and the UK market not. The flagship model of sustainable luxury should do better. Then, headroom-wise, gets very close here with 1.86 m or 6'1". This is also the one in here with panoramic roof, which is quite amazing actually. Let's open it. By the way, when it's really hot in summertime, then you can also close it. The rear one also has a shade if you like. Okay guys, before I take a seat, just take a look at this shot, how amazing design-wise this interior looks. Well, and now I'm disturbing the image. Screen-wise, screens, 12.3, then either 12.8 S-Class-like in the middle, more vertical, or optional hyperscreen for more than 6,000 euros or dollars, like here, 17.7 inch. And then you also get third screen, 12.3 inch as a passenger screen. This one here, the hyperscreen, looks more amazing. The base version will be a little bit easier to control. Here you can see also this kind of like, you know, curved design. Hey Mercedes.
How can I help?
What do you think about BMW?
Close acquaintance. Mercedes even manufactured series car bodies for BMW in the 1930s.
Really? Interesting. Wait a minute. In the 1930s? Thin ice, Mercedes. Well, and then here, GPS looks amazing, of course, and especially here in the hyperscreen, it looks amazing. Again, yeah, they claim like a zero-layer technology, but sometimes you do have to go quite deep in the menu, I think. And this is like this app view. Here in the Mercedes EQ, you can see the state of charge of the battery. Interesting is definitely the settings and the comfort menu. In the settings menu, for example, you can hear change the language and so on. Vehicle, you can activate different sound experiences. I'll test that one when we're driving, how loud they are actually. Here, dynamic select, you have the driving modes, but you can also activate it with a hotkey in the middle console like this, sport mode, comfort mode, and so on and so on. The visualizations are indeed pretty cool. And comfort-wise, you have a very nice seat massage that really goes, especially the wave massage is great because it goes then, from the top part even to lower, to your booty and so on. Yes, intensive. I'll test that one later on as well. And if you don't care about all this and just want to go with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, then you go with that one. And the sound system, as I said earlier, is awesome. And yeah, this is also one of the most classics of all time, of course, trends-wise. Yeah, great sound. Here you can see this nice augmented reality function in the GPS screen. So you can see the camera image and then there is this arrow. It's a little bit laggy at the moment though, so most of the time I've also seen it in real time, but yeah, that's why we do these tests, so this can obviously also happen. The steering wheel trusts on #capacitive BS for volume sliders and so on, and here you can also control the right screen with that one, and on the left side the same thing, but just done for cruise control, but it is definitely harder than with the older steering wheels where you have the real buttons. I'm really not sure who thought of this instrument design here, because you see that leaning angle? They should be more upright like this. You can see them better. Here, these are, by the way, the IR lights. You can only see them on camera. It's just too flat, and you can see the reflections also, and they are also visible with your own eye. You can go full screen map, for example. It's not flickering in real life, just on camera, by the way, here at the moment. But also here, for example, for sportier gauges. But that doesn't, deny the fact that the integration of the instruments should have been more visible to the driver. The head-up display is really large and very good to see, and also has some augmented reality function. And there it is. You can see here also augmented reality arrows in the head-up display, here signaling me then to turn right here at this intersection. When ambient lighting wise, this is so cool. I think I love it. And we'll drive it in a tunnel very soon and also have the active ambient lighting then. Wait for that. Interesting area here also, there is usually piano lacquer here.
that's of course then collecting fingerprints and so on. Here, the matte wood option is really cool. I would go for that one. When you open that one, you have 2 USB-C chargers. You can put your phone here and there. No, it's not a piece of bread. It's a cork case. Inductive charger there, cup holders. And here then you have start-stop button. You can pick the driving modes here, for example. And then you have the typical split opening here with more space and 2 USB-C chargers. That looks just so nice, right? With the panoramic roof and this entry area and the bright seats. Really inviting indeed. Such a bad conscience that I now ruin again the floor mats, because I already did a shoe tab and there's nothing, loose underneath my shoes. But yeah, the white floor mat's not a good idea. And also in general, the rear here is not a good idea, because do you see on camera how cramped I am here? It's like short bench, and then it's like I feel like sitting like, yes, on the toilet. Yeah. Headroom wise, with 1m86 or 6'1", it works but gets close. I can put a hand over my head, but it's so uncomfortable here in the rear. Then this part is also so cramped. Well, knee room wise, that's not a problem at all. And also here, no middle tunnel and so on. You can sit here also with 3 tall adults, that's no problem. But the seat ergonomics here in the rear are indeed strange, I have to say. This middle part you can also fold down. Then you have inductive charging pad and some more storage space right here. Very nice at the inside of the doors here in the rear, by the way. Contour stitches, soft materials. Also cool with the backlighting here around. But then again, the high gloss piano lacquer stuff. But the matte wood right here, that's actually very fancy. The cool thing here about the EQS is that you have this fastback style hatch. Opens very wide, so you basically have something like an estate. See here with 1m86 or 6'1", I can easily stand underneath it. This cover here raises automatically and you can easily access that vast trunk. And this boot here, okay, now I covered US and UK viewers, comprises 610 up to 1,770 liters. This easily fits. The length here, 1m20 or 47 inches. That's actually quite good. And the width is, yeah, also a good meter or 40 inches, also here in this area. And the height, let's say right here, for example, around 45 centimeters or 18 inches. And when we fold the seats, you can easily score this 2 meters or 79 inches in length to the front seat. You see it raises a little bit and there is a step. But in general, we again have to say, loading area wise, it's very, very well usable. Acceleration from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. $130, $150. Yeah, that sound experience low. And top speed soon reaching at. Come on. 213 kilometers an hour, 214, so that's around 130 miles per hour. Wind noise is now picking up, of course, but still, I mean, it's quite silent here and really great in control. Air suspension stiffened up now for these higher speeds. Here also, for example, lane change. Yeah, feels really agile. Now hard on the brakes, of course, maximum recuperation as well, but now the rear brakes are also being used. Whoa. And we can indeed also change this sound experience here. That was Vivid Flux. We can also go with Silver Waves, for example. Or with Roaring Pulse. Let's see. But of course, it rather plays a role when you really accelerate it out, then you hear it in a more notable way. And for the next acceleration from 90 kilometers an hour, let's switch to Roaring Pulse. Let's listen to that. Let's go. 150. Wow, feels really great here. Very settled on the motorway. Long bend here. Wow. Yeah, that was already, once again, 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour. Really good. And well, this Roaring Pulse, you couldn't hear that well, especially probably on microphone, because mixed with the wind noises, because it's low frequency. Let's test here Silver Waves. Let's see. It's like one like whoosh low whoosh. But vivid flux is definitely the most, audible one, I would say, definitely. However, with the EQS 53 AMG, that was way more audible. Let's just quickly tune into that. Let's listen to that. Yeah, that was something, wasn't it? So most of the time probably you would just leave it completely off, because I also think, it delivers you a sensation of speed in a way, but it gets annoying over time. 100. $150. Here I set it to strong recuperation. Now we have to reduce the speed. Is it a one-pedal driving feeling? Well, the recuperation is strong when you have set here the shifting pedals. Yes. Normal recuperation, no recuperation, normal, strong. So 3 levels basically. But then again, when you're driving a little bit slower, it does not make a full stop. So is it a true one-pedal driving feeling then? No. Not really, but you can at least set strong recuperation. However, it is being resetted when you start the car again. So they rather set on this, rolling effect and also using the brakes. But when I press and hold the shifting pedal, intelligent recuperation gets active. Here, no car in front of me, no recuperation. Then I'm closer to a vehicle. There is recuperation. So that's actually the best recuperation mode. And then you can also come to a standstill when the car is in front of you in traffic jam. Now, when we get to the tunnel, this one here is of course pretty cool. You can really see the ambient lighting, and even cooler is of course lights. Yeah, that's of course very distracting when I do something right here, ambient lighting, and edit settings, why another step? So, and then here I can go to energy shine, and this is the so-called circus mode. Here, when I accelerate, you see effects. When I decelerate, nothing happens. And yeah, this is the, hey, I invite my friends over to see my cars for the very first time, driving through a tunnel or driving through a night, and everyone's having a party while I'm being not distracted by my friends, nor the ambient lighting. I'm not drunk, and I'm driving. Everyone else can get drunk, So yeah, that's the so-called, or we call it circus mode here on Autogefühl. Well, it is entertaining, but of course distracting. When some even say that a mono ambient lighting would even be already distracting, this one surely is. But I think the ambient lighting is pretty cool. I love, of course, to have it here in Thomas Blue. You have different options here available, and of course brightness all the way up. Air suspension is sporty and comfortable at the very same time. Remember, we have the big wheels here, but indeed, because the air suspension is so good, you still have decent comfort. Yeah, Tesla Model 3 here without air suspension, really, really stiff there. The rather, fair competitor to this one here is the Tesla Model S. That one has air suspension and also has then a good suspension comfort. Meanwhile, with Tesla, since they made the upgrades like 2 years ago, I think, for S and X. So suspension-wise, is really good. And of course, here the rear axle steering when you're at slower speeds, either is 4.5 or 10 degrees rear axle steering. 10 degrees is an option, and that makes this vehicle here, which it has 5 meters 22 in length, so much more agile and faking a shorter wheelbase. So it feels kind of unnatural a little bit, because at lower speeds you really feel like your tail would be like waggling, like shake, shake, shake. But it definitely helps in parking in and out. And this 10 degrees option even more reduces the turning circle by a meter. So that's of course really impressive for such a big vehicle. Ooh, one more time here, ambient lighting in the tunnel. Malibu sunset is also one of my favorite things. I wouldn't leave it like all the time, but just getting in the mood, like cocktail beach mood or something. So that's really cool for that. Or burning blue. Woo. But definitely my favorite setting is still the ocean blue. Here, once again, not too loud wind noises, very connected to the road. In the S mode, the air suspension gets a little bit stiffer, really good to control. So superb in the handling, suspension rise, great job. Steering is also fine, there's no big dead zone area or something. And maybe in the very low degree angles, they made it more in a comfort setting that you can cruise straight on the motorway, for example. And then when we get off the throttle, we can also have here the cruise control, and also with the active lane keeping assist. Now the speed is already being reduced, and see how actively we are kept in the lane. Yeah, that's a very smooth process. So the assistance systems here are really top notch. Blind spot monitor is also included. However, if I drive here so fast on the motorway, you will hardly ever see the blind spot monitor being activated, because we are appearing in the blind spot, not everyone else. So getting off the motorway now. Yeah, this car is so much fun to drive still. It is huge, it is large, it has a long wheelbase, but due to that rear axle steering and low center of gravity, wow. It's really great in the slalom, and of course even better than when I drive a little bit slower, because then the rear axle steering is going in the opposite direction. At higher speeds it's going in a parallel direction, and now I realize that the slower we get, the more active the rear axle steering goes in the opposite direction. Yeah, so hardly ever we could have so much driving fun and agility in a car at that size and at that weight. This is the most remarkable thing about this vehicle here. As for energy consumption, by the way, at top speeds, usually, we also had it here now, it's like double or more than double the usual average consumption, and that would kind of mean you could drive with full speed, some little bit less than 200 kilometers or 125 miles, something like that. Because the normal average consumption we have today is also quite astonishing and rather bad, because we end up some 25 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 40 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. And that would mean we are more in like 430 kilometers of range or 270 miles. Here in wintertime, close to freezing temperatures, 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that's quite astonishing, because in summertime we could score in the EQS something close to 600 kilometers or 400 miles. So the temperature effect seems to be quite heavy on this vehicle. Yeah, that's a thing you're gonna have to live with. And of course, thinking about, say like, I have enough money, I would just want the best electric vehicle with the highest range and so on. Well, it seems that you do not have the greatest advantage here from this 100k plus vehicle, 100k in the base version, 160 or something equipped. And then if you compare this to this like 60,000 euros or dollars EVs like Kia EV6, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Tesla Model Y, well, in the winter times, they don't differ that much in range. That's of course also one of the key findings here today. Very interesting. Here, by the way, now it's like a traffic light. Once again, you have the traffic light view. Well, in this case I can see it, but here now green, and now I accelerate out, and here nice rear axle steering, and in the sport mode it gets a little bit, it doesn't break out any rear or something, but it gets a little bit loose. You have of course a lot of power, and to me, when you have these vehicles which are available with rear-wheel drive or with all-wheel drive, even if the rear-wheel drive ones have less power and one electric motor less, in efficiency, it doesn't matter so much actually with the electric vehicles. Not like when you go like rear or front wheel drive versus all wheel drive with a combustion engine. However, from the agility, when you have rear wheel drive only, you have just the boost from the rear wheels, and it is more fun to me. Yes, it's less in the acceleration, but we've seen on the motorway, this one here, the 450 is way more than enough. To me, it's the version to go for with the EQS, because the 350 available in Germany, for example, has the smaller battery, so go for the one with the bigger battery, but then with rear-wheel drive to have more fun. And especially when you set it here to the normal driving mode, the electronic stability control will also control that it won't break out in winter or something. All-wheel drive just makes sense when you live like, in the Alps region in Europe or Minnesota in the US or something, or in Canada, in BC or something like this, then the all-wheel drive will still make sense, yes, but for most use cases, rear-wheel drive will just be enough, and you can save some money with it. And to me, indeed, you have a little bit more driving fun. As for seating and so on, I told you that in the interior part, I feel that the seat is for some time too plush in a way. They look super comfortable and sophisticated, but I don't feel that they offer so much comfort as they should be. So, especially recently, I'm not really satisfied with the seat ergonomics with Mercedes in general. Maybe just my body type, but I've read it also in the comments that a lot of you guys actually also said, yeah, Thomas, finally someone talks about this. I have the same experience. I'm especially, all of you who are a little bit taller say like, don't really feel comfortable in the Mercedes seats. I rather go than, for Lexus, Audi, BMW. VW Group in general, by the way, is usually building seats which have, a higher average. Whereas Mercedes and also the Asian manufacturers rather go for a lower average in the seat form as for the body height. That's always a problem, with setting the averages. It's also discriminating women most of the time, because like a typical male average is usually taken. That's in automotive industry, it's in pharmaceutical stuff. So that's also a big issue, of course. Yeah, and when you're very tall, then you're also discriminated against. Yeah, okay, I'll survive here, but I have to say, this car costs so much and supposed to be so comfortable, but to me, it isn't actually. And when you now compare Mercedes S-Class versus EQS, they apply the same raw chassis foam that kind of builds up during the process then here on the EQS. Still, I felt that the S-Class is a little bit more silent, really at very, very high speeds when we've driven that one. That's also an interesting factor. Driving fun-wise, EQS versus S-Class, clearly the EQS, so much more fun with a low center of gravity. It's really the thing, in all the segments, the electric vehicles are more fun to drive, minus possible sound or something. When you think about that. And now some agile driving fun here with the Silver Waves sound profile. In the sport mode, again, suspension a little bit silver, but air suspension evens that out very well. More comfort, of course, than with some smaller wheels possible also. And you really don't feel that you would be steering such a long vehicle. Yeah, and with rear-wheel drive, you can very well get out of the corners. You hear something of the sound profile. Now on the brakes, there you feel the weight actually. Yeah, a little bit braking out even. Great fun. Wow. And one more time. This is so great, really. I mean, I'm not deactivating ESC here on public roads or something, but this was already enough. Can have a little spin, yeah. This so much proves my point that the rear-wheel drive version of this one here, of the EQS, is so much more fun than the all-wheel drive version, especially in these conditions here and these situations. Yeah, and then you can just live with a little bit less of acceleration boost when you have more cornering driving fun, definitely. That's at least my take to this.
Welcome to the Tesla Model S in the updated or facelift version, and the Plaid model here, the top sporty version, around 2 seconds in the acceleration figure, over 1000 horsepower. It's basically a hypercar from stock.
Like 75 kilometers an hour. Holy. What the? 250 kilometers an hour? Oh my God.
Thomas and Autogefühl for you in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Here in the front we can see a new lower part. Everything from one piece also goes through right here. Also a little bit wider to house even wider tires. New headlamps here, LED. The daytime running light stays like this. And the air is being channeled through here and also here, right there. So for even more aerodynamics, it is one of the most aerodynamic cars overall. The length at 4.98 or 196 inches. And interesting that we now have a black styling all over the vehicle. That counts both
for the normal Model S with dual motor, around 3 seconds in acceleration figure, and also for the Plaid model with around 2 seconds in the acceleration figure. Rolling start, so a couple of tenths more from standing still start. Yeah, Tesla is always cheating a little bit with the figures, making it even more extreme. Then here you can see here, blacked out frames, the so-called chrome delete, also with the door handles. Here in this case also black wheels, 21 inch, but you could also go for smaller 19 inch wheels for even more comfort. However, for comfort, it's equipped with the air suspension, and that works very well here with the Model S. It's a big difference, for example, to the more, less expensive Model 3, which do not offer air suspension then. Here also, very strong shoulder part. I really liked it, or hip part, you can also say that. And interesting that this Plaid model here comes with 3 electric motors. So 2 at the rear, 1 for each wheel, and that enables even better torque vectoring. If you put even wider tires and also retrofit carbon ceramic brakes, then it is possible to unlock the top speed to 320 kilometers an hour or 200 miles per hour. Where you want to drive that? Even in Germany, come on. Well, but this one doesn't have it. However, it is still extremely quick and fast. And the top speed of the normal version, the normal Plaid version, we will test today on the German Autobahn. Let's see later how fast that goes. In the rear, the typical Model S styling, however, a little bit more refined, and here again with the black accentuations that work very well, I think. And then here you have this Plaid badge of this grid from Spaceballs. I can just recommend watching that movie. One of my favorite of all times indeed. It's really so funny. And I actually watched it before watching the original Star Wars movies because my parents thought that I could take Spaceballs, but I was too young to watch the real Star Wars movie because Jabba the Hutt should have been so frightened. Yeah. Interesting story from my childhood, definitely. I love both Spaceballs and original Star Wars. Not the very newest episodes though. Damn Disney. Back to the car. Then here, the carbon fiber lip, really interesting. And carbon fiber is also a secret to the motors, which are carbon wrapped and therefore can take these extreme revolutions. Very interesting indeed. And news as for towing now, up to 1.6 tons. First time the Model S is also approved for towing. Not as much as the Model X, for example. That one would be at 2.25 tons towing capacity. The battery at 100 kilowatt hours net, however, now with heat pump. That means it will also have decent range in winter times, and a very realistic one indeed, because it's so efficient, is indeed 500 kilometers or 300 miles. Even better if you drive, very, very optimized, and maybe worse when you hammer it through all the way. But 500 kilometers, 300 miles is a very realistic range. And now, as I said, even in winter times, thanks to this new heat pump system. And recharging, about 250 kilowatt DC peak at the supercharger. You open it right here, AC, DC, and you can charge 10 to 80% in less than 30 minutes. Moving towards the interior, you can see here flush door handles for better aerodynamics, but when we open the vehicle, here we go, they come out, and also door closing sound is very solid, although it's a vehicle with frameless doors. That's pretty cool. Soft materials, all animal free, that's so important. Carbon fiber insert. You now open the doors from here with this capacitive field. And this is a nice grey fabric, the Scandinavian furniture design, I would call it. Then Model S entry badge and a completely new yoke steering wheel. That means cut off upper part, really straight at the bottom. We'll test today how that one plays out in low and also high speed driving. And these seats here also completely redesigned, new ergonomics and also new surfaces. Now with perforation, it's really soft and plush here also on the seating area as well, all animal free, so a really great quality, and now also combinable once again with seat cooling. This reworked interior is really impressive indeed, how clean it looks, and then 17-inch screen, no horizontal stress. And a very interesting thing is for sure this display tilt. I really prefer to have it like this than here while driving, just more towards me. But you can also put it stationary to the passenger side. That is possible. Maybe not the most used function. That you can see everything best on camera is of course the center. By the way, if you see any colored irritations on the screen. That's just on camera. Here on your own eye, everything is really crisp. You can also get this satellite view, and it's really responsive. They've done a great job with the software, one of the leading systems for sure. And here you can also go light or dark appearance, or you can switch it auto, then it appears according to the light sensors, for example. Suspension setting, you can also change here comfort, auto, sport and advanced. You can also adapt it a little bit, so you can change so much here, also the ride height of the air suspension, or just let everything controlled more automatically. Steering mode, how much resistance you have here, you can also change, so much things to change. Temperature unit here in the lower part, or you can also set the voice control. Temperature 22 degrees. There we go. So this is also then a quick reaction. The keycard has to be placed right here for driving now, by the way. And the interesting thing is, for start driving, they want you to do either here P, or then here slide forward for the drive mode, or slide backward for reverse. To have it here in the screen is somewhat irritating indeed. You get used to it, but there's no store column for that left anymore. However, it can also be controlled here from this lower area. You can still press these buttons then, for example, for reverse, neutral, or D for the drive mode. I think it's better to still have that. I still wonder why Tesla is reluctant to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but what is good that they have two nice microfiber covered inductive charging pads here in the front, so your two phones can also be together while being charged. There we go. So, and then this area, carbon fiber cover, nice that we don't have high gloss black piano lacquer or something. You slide open, and here in our Tesla Model X test vehicle, it didn't work that well from a build quality, but here you see it's actually fine. Goes forward and then like this, half stop, and all the way back again. So, and then this one, cubby hole, slide open, cup holders, also somewhat adaptive. Could be a little bit better from a build quality here, and then more space underneath. Really here, this middle armrest, really good from build quality. It has been well attached now, and underneath even more space. Digital instruments, clear to read, clear to see, and when you put it in the drive mode, it looks like this. Digital speed right there, and when you have a GPS route set actually, then it also appears in the left part, but you have to continue. There we go. Start driving with that. Very interesting that the turning indicators are now at the steering wheel. Here, right or left. It is this capacitive thing, however, but you do get some kind of feedback. And you also see that when you use the turning indicators, you also get this kind of blind spot or turning camera here, right side and left side, as an additional helper in the infotainment system. And the sound system, 22 speakers now upgraded. And interesting is you can actually turn that immersive sound off, or then put higher, and that this immersive sound is more like three-dimensional sound, and I really like it. Yeah, it's really cool sound for music lovers. Rear seating area, first of all, nice soft touch materials here also at the back part, carbon fiber insert, so the build quality really has been improved over the years with the Model S. That's good to have like a refined model that is not all new, but refined. Here, take a look at the interior, also the same seating materials, now with these perforated high-grade leatherette seats. Looks cool, feels cool, isofix at the outside parts each. Yeah, it's a long sedan, all EV, but what about the seating comfort and the legroom and so on? Well, as I'm driving here, hardly fits with the legs, so not really using the length of the vehicle. And the comfort of the back seat, well, the seats themselves, they are way better now. However, you see here how much space I have here. It's really not something ideal for tall people in the back. As for the headroom with 1.89 meters or 6'2", it does work because I have space underneath the glass roof. But again, it's not ideal here for tall people when tall people are also driving. And since this is all EV, you don't have like a middle tunnel here. But then again, this middle seating here, it works then with the legs maybe here, but this back part here is kind of stiff, so it's also not ideal to sit in the middle part here. Looking through the panoramic roof from here, that is actually quite cool, and also with a new screen. Here, this new screen, look at that here, where you control the vents, looks fancy, and it works actually quite well, no problem. Yeah, that you don't have this manual thing anymore, but that way it's a cleaner solution actually. And then you can also change the temperature right here, and you can also use it for streaming. Here, Netflix, Disney Plus, YouTube. Yeah, Disney has all the Star Wars now, we know it. But here, of course, best thing is to always use the YouTube search and put Autogefühl. You can also just say UHA without the German umlaut, and then some suggestions, or then just pick your favorite model name. For example, if you want to see the competitor, like EQE AMG, like this, and then we directly get to our review. There we go, one of the competitors right here. And then you can also now stream that in your Tesla Model S. And yeah, please watch the ads or go for YouTube Premium, that we also can produce our videos even further. Oh yeah, Polestar 3, we will also come up with a review of that very shortly. What about that frunk? Yeah, there is one, and also quite well usable one, maybe for charging cables or for whatever you prefer, but definitely very well usable. Your luggage will fly all over the place when you use this harsh flat acceleration. So let's take a look at the trunk or the boot. So here you have this cover, this nice microfiber. You can fold this up like this, or you can remove it completely. It's both possible. The width here in the back part is a little bit less than a meter or 40 inches, but barely less. And wider here in the between the wheel arches. This is a very, very large opening than here for charging cables and everything. And you can see here, just luggage here, that you can have approximately an understanding of how high it is. And even here underneath the cover, it's no problem. As for the length, we can here unlock the seats all right there, but then we have to push them. It's a 1/3, 2/3 split, and when we have pushed it all the way through, about 1.90 m or 74 inches, that's of course really massive. And what about the overall height right here? Almost 27 inches, a little bit less, or that's 68 centimeters. Here we are, German motorway, Tesla Model S Plaid, and acceleration from 100 kilometers an hour. Plop to 200 kilometers an hour. Oh, that even created pressure on the inside of the ears. Still alive? Ooh. Oh. Yeah. Talking about G-force, that is definitely G-force. Wow. Yeah, that's even beyond ludicrous. Absolutely crazy and so effortless, and is really planted on the ground. The air suspension gives us comfort. At the same time, it gives us also a sporty feeling of the vehicle. The steering wheel is very direct indeed, kind of crisp. You don't have to do hectic steering, but here you see, so it reacts to fine reactions, so you don't oversteer then on the motorway, otherwise you're going all over the place here. So really be gentle with the steering, and especially if you want to stress out your passengers too much, be also gentle with the throttle, and of course in both ways, because the recuperation is also pretty strong. It's typical Tesla one pedal driving, but wow, that acceleration is absolutely nuts. However, when cruising here at about 120 kilometers an hour, like 70 miles an hour, noise insulation is good. They also use active noise cancellation then here now, and that means we have a very, very nice silent feeling in here. It's not that bad that you have this vacuum feeling in your ears. Oh no, wait a minute, I need to... Holy moly, and we're gone. That GTI was behind us and then it's like disappeared. Whew. And you don't have any acoustic feedback for that, so otherwise when you are in these combustion engine sports and you're then you know, oh, something is happening. But here I always compare it in a way, just imagine you're sitting at home on your sofa or maybe on a chair or something, and someone who's like this, and then you're like 200 meters more further in the front. Your brain cannot really cope with that. So even as a driver, even when you know when the acceleration is happening, it's still really hard to cope with that. And you see here, even when we are already at speed, like around 30 kilometers an hour, like 80 miles an hour, whoa, there's still more push, and that was 200. That is absolutely crazy. So never, yeah, it brings a smile to your passengers when they like acceleration. So I cannot recommend carrying any passengers who don't like acceleration in this vehicle, because they might puke all over the place here in that vehicle. There's the acoustic warning also when I'm getting over the lane. Yeah, now we're getting to another, wow, really cool lane change here as well. The driving feeling is phenomenal, and I really like the suspension as well. It's not too stiff, not too soft at all. Here now in this transition between the two motorways, wow, it's a lot of fun. And here on the motorway, I'm really enjoying the yoke steering wheel. It feels like in a Formula 1 car. It feels like gaming. So you really have to do reality checks. I mean, with this acceleration, with this steering wheel, it's like, wait a minute, I'm still in reality. I'm not in an arcade game or something. Wow, this is amazing. Wow, great sporty feeling, so much fun, and we are in a large EV sedan. We're carrying so much weight, but due to the low center of gravity, it's no problem at all. And I mean, this acceleration is so fast. You know, I'm like just slightly on the throttle, and it's going forward so effortless, actually. Wow. We can do another acceleration while steering, by the way. Here, that is also very interesting. We can drop down the speed a little bit, because here we have now a good chance, unlimited speed. There's no one behind us, hardly anyone in front of us. Dropping the speed now to like 75 kilometers an hour. Holy, what the? 250 kilometers an hour. Oh my god. Top speed 266, 267. Holy, what the hell? This, I'm not sure if this should be legal. I mean, it is legal what I just did, but just you have to be very careful, of course, doing this on public roads. And you feel that pressure on your ear? Oh, it's like, it's really like when a plane is taking off or a plane is landing. Oh, whoa. Is that a speed camera? No, it's not. Gladly not. Whoa. This is messing with your brain totally. So, probably for most of the time, I would just recommend putting it in chill acceleration. And when you push the throttle, then it is limited, but still fast enough. Then it would be, oh, okay, this is then like a normal vehicle. And sport would be something in between, that you already have a great push, but don't that super extreme feeling. Yeah, showing off from time to time, but please, everyone who buys this vehicle or owns this vehicle, hardly I ever say that about the vehicle, but please be careful with that. You know, you need to have a lot of experience to be able to handle this one. This is so fast, it is extremely dangerous. Not because it's a bad vehicle, not at all. You know, it's a very safe vehicle and great crash safety results and so on, but this kind of acceleration, and the same would be also to another, you know, super sports car or something. It's even not a supercar. This is already a hypercar, but from stock. You know, it's probably like the only hypercar from stock. Wow, I really gotta I think I gotta digest here a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like a slide push is a lot of fun actually. So I would say like midway through, it's still in a way where your body says like, hey, this is fun. But hammering the throttle all the way through, I really have to say, this is one of the very rare vehicles where the acceleration can be beyond fun, because it's just too extreme. And let me just try again with that sport mode. So when I drop down a little bit and then let's hammer in the sport mode here. Yeah, that's good actually. So in the sport mode, you can hammer it all the way through and it's still fun. So to me, it would definitely be chill or sport mode when you are in normal driving situations. yeah, and then maybe plaid when everything is free, you want to show off once or something, but really extra precaution, and then it should actually be better. I really like this suspension together with the wheel combination. It's a good choice. So with the Model X, I would always go with the 20-inch wheels here. 21-inch work. If you want more comfort, stick with the 19 one. But here the 21-inch combo, yeah, it's a good visual on the outside, but still you have enough comfort on the inside. When you compare, by the way, Tesla Model X and Tesla Model S, yes, in this upgrade here, they are, you know, kind of similar in a way. The main difference is, of course, here you have more this planted sedan seating position. In the Model X, more upright. Here, I would say on short trips, the Model X is more comfortable. On longer trips, sitting a little bit lower, feeling less G-forces might be more comfortable here with the Model S. To me, the interesting thing is that here now with this seat upgrade here, they both get similar seats. And before, I was not really happy, especially with the seats in the Model S. This combination of having sedan seating position and the seat ergonomics not being so good would have me drawn from the Model S and more to the Model X. Here now, the seats are way better. So I would also feel comfortable in the Model S. The Model X, of course, has even more like unique special approach with the whole vehicle concept. And then when you compare Model 3 or Model Y, I would indeed, when the budget is allowing it, rather go for S and X, especially now with this update. Before the 3 and the Y, they're more modern and so on. And here now, everything has been evened up, you know. There you have a great modern new concept. You have a heat pump now that works. The efficiency is also really great, and so on and so on. You can also reset the trip meter and see if like what we consume when we more have like steady driving, when we put out these extreme accelerations and so on and so on. So meanwhile, I would tend to Model S and X again. And then the question is just if you have that SUV feeling or not, what you prefer. Because suspension in Model 3 and Model Y is to me too stiff, too rough, or like boop, 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 boop. Here I really prefer the air suspension. It's just a way better, more comfortable ride. I really, really like that. And noise insulation wise, it's also really good with this active noise cancellation. It works very well, and you don't have this vacuum feeling which I sometimes had when driving vehicles with active noise cancellation, where maybe they went over the top. I know it from the Ford Kuga, for example, or from the Mercedes S-Class Maybach. There was just too much of this active noise cancellation, but here it's actually fine. And build quality-wise, they've also stepped up the game. So indeed, where maybe in the past was like, hey, we have like these super interesting solutions for the software, but in the driving quality, it doesn't keep up with the Germans. Here now in driving, feels good from suspension, is very nice, direct steering and so on. It really also keeps up in these driving hardware aspects with the German competitors. Of course, a Mercedes EQE AMG would be one of the direct comparison in this respect. Oh, just feel I have to do some neck exercise, I think, when I get home. Oh, yeah, this is really getting some stress on your neck. Maybe I recommend like the head restraint is kind of stiff. When you're doing these kind of accelerations, better first push your head into the head restraint. That is really, keeping you away from whiplash. Right here, also Tesla Model 3 behind us now. Yeah, I think also I found the S more beautiful as for the exterior styling too, as well, by the way. And here in this narrow, construction site on the Autobahn, this actually doesn't feel too wide, although it's a little bit wider than before. Very easy to control. So when you don't have it on the plaid mode and accelerate the hell out of here, it is actually also a comfortable silent ride. So you can also use this vehicle here just to relax. You don't have to attack all the way, but of course, if you like, you can do that. Another difference, X and S, will be that this one here is more efficient. So when you drive slower or faster, in both ways, especially actually when you go faster, because of the drag coefficient, it's even better than in the Model X. and therefore the energy consumption will be even lower, and this also then pushes the range. And indeed, efficiency is really, really good now when I have put out these extreme accelerations. So we are at figures below 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So at the moment, like for example 17, and that means like less than 27 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. So this 500 kilometers or 300 miles of real world, realistic range, even in wintertime now, is really, that's for real, you know, because now fitted with the heat pump for X and S, this one then now is, you know, less difference of summer range and winter range. Very good thing to have. So long range or high distance driving is also possible now. And once again, also just cruising 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, very comfortable. But of course, you can, you know, let the hounds of hell out anytime you want. So when easing the car in and out on the parking lot here, for example, you see it works. Oh, that's no one has seen that. I'm not staying here, of course. So like this, it works, of course, but with a round steering wheel, it's a little bit easier here, like, you know, when grabbing around. But you see, with this technique, it works, but you cannot let it slide, you know, that you would do with the round steering wheel and so on. You get used to it, but I wouldn't say it's ideal for easing the car in and out on the parking lot, so on, you know. So yeah, or maybe like, I don't know, grab over here. You'll find some ways to do that. And I mean, when you're stationary or like parking in and out, it's also not really a security issue. I think the biggest problem would be when you are in a tight corner and then have to grab around, you know. That could indeed be some kind of a problem. Yeah, but on the motorway, as I said, it was no problem at all. That was really, really nice and felt sporty and yeah, just somehow cool, you know. So here we go, bumps in the road. This road is really uneven, and the air suspension is evening that out very well. 19 or 21 inch wheels are available then here for this one. And the thing is that with the 21 inch wheels, as we have it here at the moment, I think it's okay. If you want more comfort, of course, you would stick with the 19 inch wheels, but the 21 inch here work. I have had the experience with the Tesla Model X, where we had the 22 inch wheels mounted, and that was less comfortable from these small bumps in the road, you know. So here then with the 21 inch, it's definitely better. However, once again, for the best comfort, then stick with the 19 inch wheels. In the city, yeah, it's already a lot of fun here, and even if you just slightly press the throttle, it goes forward so well. Yeah, if you go for the sport or the chill mode, that is a little bit relaxed, a little bit more relaxed in the city then. Other than that, yeah, the plaid mode, showing off to your friends or something, but when you're using this car every day, on and on and on, then you would rather keep it in the slower acceleration modes. Using these turning indicators, you get used to that quite quickly actually. So some of the innovations are actually fine or okay, and they really clean things up. At first you think, oh, what am I doing? But then you see, okay, I use this one, and that's okay. So this is one of the things, it's really fine, and I'm also happy that we have the drive mode selector here in the lower part, so you don't have to do everything in the screen. I think that's a good solution, that you at least offer the customer both possibilities. Well, we can also do some, yeah, better get off the road quick. Okay, so yeah, it's really astonishing, like this get-go jump from the traffic light. It's so extreme and more extreme than sometimes your body actually can bear. And from the outside, it still looks a little bit in disguise, you know, when you see like a Porsche 911 Turbo S or something, everyone's like, oh, it's like a super sporty vehicle, and what's happening now when the acceleration on the traffic light? But here it's more like, okay, yeah, Tesla Model S, it's a normal model, and then you bam, and you're off. So that's really, really something, even when driving in the city. You rather have to check out that you don't hit the speed camera then, and of course for safety, just this is essentially also a weapon, this vehicle, because it is really so extremely fast. But you can, even in this plat mode, tune it in a very fine way. Of course, always, as we know from Tesla here, when you lift your throttle, then your accelerator pedal, as we can call it here in the EVs, then there's a strong recuperation. So one pedal driving is what Tesla intends to, that you hardly use the rear brakes. You just use this one pedal for acceleration and also then for the braking. And yeah, when you get to the motorway again, you can easily hammer. And I mean, just like these in between, like 50 to 80. Hold your breath. That's it. It's like, it's absolutely crazy. As for assistance systems, I said it here, the autopilot on the steering wheel with a click, and then I can also adjust the speed here with scrolling up. And so far the lane is also being kept in a nice way. I'm supposed to keep my hands on the steering wheel as well. And there's not like a sudden or hectic movement or something like that. Of course, never trust in it 100%. What can be quite challenging here is that the vehicle is suggesting which speed is allowed here at this moment, and then it's always adjusting the speed according to that. But sometimes the speed is changed, and then you set the cruise control, but it's a completely different speed than it's allowed at this moment. So yeah, maybe like a more current traffic sign recognition would help then in this respect for that. And that also, one press on the brake is also cancelling the cruise control, and then you can take everything yourself in your own hands again.
The Genesis G80 EV. Here with Thomas on Autogefühl for you. How good is it actually, and how does it compete against the competitors? Let's go! The Genesis G80 is somewhat like a Korean Mercedes E-Class, and usually it also comes as a combustion engine, has an open front grille, but here it's all the way closed in this EV version. Still a striking look. Sometimes people mistake the design and also the logo for a Bentley. What's your take on that? Here, horizontal design for the Daytona running like. Overall, a very strong design in the front here, and looks really high class, doesn't it? Well, usually I am running into the shot in the side profile. This time the car rolls into the shot because this is this remote parking feature. Really interesting. You can use it with the key fob and then getting it in and out of some very narrow parking lots, for example. Let's open it and the side mirrors come up. Yeah, it's about 5 meters or 197 inches in the length, full-size sedan, a really beautiful silhouette here indeed. In this case, this G80 EV is also equipped with the solar roof, and they promise up to a surplus range of 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles per year when the car is in the sun frequently. And the EV always comes with 19-inch wheels. A clean design here also at the rear with the horizontal stress of the tail lamps. So overall, I think a very, very elegant design for this vehicle. Top speed here of the EV version is 225 kilometers an hour or 140 miles per hour. Does this go even a little bit faster? Well, we are going to find out today on the German Autobahn test indeed. 4.9 seconds is the acceleration figure. That's quicker even than the 3.5 liter six-cylinder you can get on the combustion side. All-wheel drive, one electric motor in the rear or on the rear axle and one in the front.
Is there a frunk? No, there is not. But it looks quite fancy under the hood, doesn't it?
And the charging port for that 87 kilowatt hour battery is here, behind the grille, hidden. Interesting, right? With quick DC charging.
And thanks to the 800 volt architecture, it works in about 21 minutes to charge from 10 to 80% state of charge. That is super quick.
Door closing sound. Beautiful, very solid. But this one here is also equipped with the soft close.
Seating position, basically the seat is comfortable, but there's a big catch to that. Because of this EV version here, they put the batteries in the floor, and then you do lose height here in the whole interior. So the seating is a little bit off if you compare it to the G80 combustion engine where it was super comfortable. I feel that I'm somehow sitting higher, and with 1.89 meters or 6'2", I'm almost, having, like my head into the ceiling here. That's really weird. Headroom still works though, yes. But, I feel that I'm actually higher than the top of the windshield. So, and this is almost a deal breaker for the EV version for tall people actually. Steering wheel up and down, electric way, that's easy and nicely done. Yeah, if you're not as tall as me, it might not be a problem. But yeah, it's really rare that we have still these differences between ICE and combustion, between ICE and EV versions, that you really sit differently.
As for the seats, they look quite luxurious, but here in the EV version, only available with animal skin, that is so yesterday, the combustion engines, they do offer a high-grade leatherette. Why not here?
Interior overview, elegant design, nice matte wood here, that looks amazing indeed. 14.9 inch, super wide spread screen indeed, 12.3 inch instruments. The steering wheel looks a little bit too traditional to me from that form. I think a little bit more modern would have been better in that case. And very important, manual climate unit. Here we go, so easy to control it while driving, real haptic feedback, I love that. Here the vent strength in the screen, but that's actually fairly easy to do. And here, for example, also the cooled or the heated seats and the heated steering wheel, and some real hotkeys here above that. So that's good to have that. A little bit further down below, here's like this open, good quality that feels really nice. USB-A charging for your smartphone, but also inductive charging would be possible, but you need a cable for the CarPlay or Android Auto. And then here, home button, for example, menu button for the top infotainment screen. You can control it also here, but that's so flat and you can't really touch it like this, hardly. It doesn't feel that good. You press it on the inside to change something. I think they would rather need something like this for the infotainment system, but they try to differentiate these. But in the GV60, they already found a solution that you can still have something better to grab here. This is then the gear selection here for driving, neutral, reverse, or then parking. And on the right side, beautiful matte wood structure once again for the adaptive cup holders. And this is the drive mode button. Middle console here has a split opening and then some more space underneath and a 12-volt power supply. Let's take a look at the infotainment. You usually control it from below. You can also use the touch, but it's a far reach from the driving position. This is the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration, and this Lexicon sound system also makes for a very nice true sound. I like that indeed. And as I said, you can also go back to the home menu like this. This is a nice screensaver, by the way. If you go here, that looks pretty beautiful. But controlling it while driving, as I said, with the problem that you always, turn it that flatly, it's not the easiest thing to do. What's interesting here in the EV view, here, for example, you can also access information to the solar roof, and we can see it has already generated almost 39 kilowatt hours. So like almost half of the battery of one full battery charge. So it does bring you something back depending on how often your car is actually standing outside in the sun. Digital instruments, they switch according to the driving mode. Here, for example, in the sports mode, or there's also the eco mode, reduced throttle input then. And you can change at least some of the contents on the inside, but actually not too much. What's rather interesting is that when you use the turning indicators, you have then here this camera view also for turning, an additional blind spot warning, so to speak. And you can also get a head-up display. Rear seating is quite cozy, but you don't have too much legroom considering the length of the vehicle, and the recess would only work when you would have the seat a little bit higher, so not ideal as for the usage. And also here in the rear, you lose headroom if you compare it to the combustion engine. Here, it directly fits, but I don't have any space above my head, and I did have with the combustion engine model. And you also feel that it's your feet a little bit higher. You see this angle here. So big drawback here for the EV version of this vehicle indeed. And well, it's quite cool that you have the shades here, for example, in the rear. These manual shades here, like this, to another protection against the sun. They are quite hard to put up again though. In the middle part, seating is not that ideal. And you can also have this executive seating here on the other side. It's also a practical thing that you can move then here the co-driver seat forward for that, for example, from here with these separated buttons. And then you can make yourself even more space in here on this side. That's actually a
quite cool thing to have. And then you have plenty of space. Here, this middle part, you can also fold down. And then you have this additional console, for example, also for seat heating, some more space here, USB-C charging. And you also have this rear seat entertainment system, which is then kind of mirroring what you can also see in the front. You can access the map and so on. A very cool feature here with Hyundai, Genesis, Kia vehicles is, a lot of models have it now, you approach the vehicle with the key in your pocket only, and you don't have to use a foot kick opening mechanism. You just stand still here and the take it opens then. That's a very practical thing. But there is a catch to this EV also with the trunk. You lose 70 liters if you compare it to the combustion engine version. Here, cabin trolley vertical weight does fit. You have about a meter or 40 inches in length. In width here, it's here a meter or 40 inches, a little bit wider here and then a little bit narrower there. But here, you see this large step here. So considering you have such a big vehicle with such a tiny trunk, disappointing then. Charging cable, and underneath is some more space, but not too much. Thomas's driving lounge with the G80 EV. We'll put it to sports mode and accelerate from around 40 kilometers an hour to, let's see, let's go. 100, 150, 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, and soon reaching the top speed, officially 225 kilometers, like 140 miles, and we can go a little bit further to 30, 235, 236. Wow. Yeah, it's not really meant for high-speed driving, suspension-wise, although we have electronically controlled suspension, but it feels a little bit loose in high-speed driving. Definitely not set out for that. Noise installation-wise, you heard that was quite well done. It wasn't too loud though, so that was actually quite interesting. This one also is equipped with active noise cancellation, which to me is not the best thing, because sometimes you might feel you have like a vacuum next to your ear or something. It's not that strong here in this vehicle, so shouldn't be afraid of that. In other vehicles, for example, in Mercedes S-Class Maybach, or in the Ford Kuga, there I felt it was like too much. You know, here I think they found a quite good solution for that. In the sport mode, by the way, also the bolsters are a little bit stronger than here in the tunnel. Well, we cannot see too much of the ambient lighting, because as soon as there's some light from the outside, you can't really see too much of that. I've set everything on the max level, and you can see you can't see too much. There is ambient lighting, yes, but not too much, and also not too strong. That is actually not their philosophy. When we pick another driving mode, by the way, I click it through in the middle console and it changes in the instruments. Comfort mode also changes some instrument styling there. And the throttle input is changing. Steering input, let's see. I'm in that sport mode. Steering is always very soft actually. Let's see here, comfort, sport. Yeah, maybe a little bit more resistant, but always really light, that steering. So the whole car doesn't convey a sporty feeling. That's also not what it's set out to do. So if you compare it, for example, to the main competitor, the Mercedes EQE, then the EQE is always set on a sportier note, just from the feeling, from the suspension and so on. This one here more for relaxed driving through. That also leads me to the consumption figure, or the real-world driving range, which is very interesting indeed. So now, of course, at acceleration, then the consumption is up. And usually you can calculate with electric vehicles that the energy consumption at top speed, like 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour or something, when you reach these kind of speeds, then usually energy consumption is doubling from the normal or minimum figure. Yeah, so it's really, really expensive then to drive such high speeds then. And the normal energy consumption, this is by the way the blind spot monitor, the normal energy consumption is, you can calculate with some 19 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, so some 30 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. And that leads here, I have an 87 kilowatt hour net battery. And that leads to a real world driving range of some good 450 kilometers or 280 miles, which is decent for electric vehicles out there. You can score better figures if you really do 80, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, motorway, cruise control, that's it. Or city driving only. Remember, combustion engines are always less efficient in the city. The EVs are always more efficient in the city. So EVs have lower average consumption figures if you go city only, whereas combustion engines have higher consumption figures city only. And on the motorway, it's basically then the other way around. That's very interesting, especially when the higher the speed goes, actually. So overall, it still conveys driving fun. It is really spontaneous from the acceleration. It is quicker than the combustion engine brothers. Here 4.9 seconds in the acceleration figure to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. So it is fun to drive, yes, but steering feel, as I said, is a little bit vague. Then the car also doesn't feel sporty as for suspension, but it feels comfortable. And that's an important thing about this vehicle. That's also the main goal, that it's comfortable, and the suspension is comfortable indeed. So it evens out the bumps very well. So I'm really happy with the suspension, and it's totally okay that the emphasis of this vehicle is not sportiness, but rather this gliding effect. We'll do one more time higher speed driving here on the German Autobahn after that tunnel again. One thing I do notice while driving is definitely once again the seating position, which is a little bit awkward in the EV version. It's definitely, to me, because of the higher seating position, less comfortable than the ICE brother, also while driving. And indeed, it does irritate me while driving that I'm so close to the ceiling here with my head. So I would definitely stick with the combustion engine version of this G80 as for the seating comfort. At my height, maybe if you're not as tall as me, it might not be such a problem. You won't notice it that much, or you might think, hey, maybe it's even good that I'm sitting a little bit higher. But for tall people, not ideal. When we're already at speed, 80 kilometers an hour, how does the car behave in acceleration? Let's go. Strong. 130, 150, 170, 180. Yeah, it's really cool. And then let's switch the lane. Yeah, it doesn't give me the best feeling of the vehicle. I mean, we're at really high speeds here, but wow, super silent here, although almost again 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. That is very well done, and it's very comfortable. Just not that sporty, and that's fine, but we're testing here the vehicles that you actually know what to expect. And I have to say the EQE is sportier in the driving, suspension-wise and so on, better steering feel, but the seats in the EQE are also not that good actually. But I must say the combustion engine seats here of the G80 are even better. Here with the G80 is definitely the big advantage when you're driving here also at higher speeds and would burn a lot of energy. Then we can also better do quick charging from this 10 to 80% in about 21, 22 minutes. Yes, the Mercedes EQE is also good in that one, so they are both good in that respect here. Here with the 8-volt technology, of course, they are also, really top of the game. No one can beat them at the moment at this point. Well, Porsche Taycan and the Audi e-tron GT, of course, they have also the 8-volt technology. These are the only two ones besides the Hyundai, Kia, Genesis. So we know that the Kia EV6 has that, and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Genesis GV60. That's the EV, the corresponding model, and then here also the Genesis G80 and the Genesis GV. Wait a minute, the SUV is then the GV70 EV, right? Yeah, that one will also get it. So yeah, really good, this 8-volt technology. Let's go back to the normal driving mode, comfort mode. Here now, countryside roads. You can also test something of the assistance systems. You've heard and seen, maybe also seen, there's a red triangle then in the side mirror when you have the blind spot monitor activated. You also heard that when I was in between the two motorway segments. The Adaptive cruise control works well to keep the distance to the car in front of me. The active steering assist I tested earlier in a construction site on the motorway, which is the fiercest test basically, and it's not bad, but it's also not that convincing. I also activated here now on the countryside road. On the motorway, most of the systems work well, but when they're in harder conditions, like here, this corner here now, you see, I'm not steering. It does forward. Yeah, it fails, kind of, you know. It steers a little bit, but it's not really keeping the lane. And very good active lane keeping systems, they usually also keep this lane here very well, even though we're not on the motorway. So do not trust 100% in this active lane keeping assist here. Overall, what I really do like while driving is the direct user interface when I'm, you know, a little bit colder or too hot or something. Yeah, I hope usually I'm too hot, right? So, yeah, in both ways, yeah. So here I can easily control that here with the climate unit. So no hashtag capacitive BS, nor on the steering wheel, nor on the climate unit. Well, here's the touchscreen for the vent strength, but I can live with that. And it's also rather straightforward. It stays in the same direction, also with the heated steering wheel, for example, or the cooled seats. That's really a great thing to have. So I really like the classic user face of this vehicle. Besides infotainment system-wise, I mean, it's not meant to be touched. Like you see, it's here like so rather they want you to use that lower turning knob, and I told you earlier, they did it in a way that it's differentiating from that shifting lever, that you don't mess that up. But the GV60 also has a different solution for that now. So the problem is that turning that thing with this really flat DJ knob, like that, it's not ideal while driving and then pressing it. So the control interface for that should just be the classic one, like these Audi MMIs or BMW iDrive selector and so on. This would be a way easier solution overall here also for this vehicle. Countryside road here now, super silent, so I really like it. And the effect of this vacuum effect from the active noise cancellation, I think it's okay. I think I'm noticing it a little bit, but not too much. But I'm really a fan always of passive noise insulation. Speaks more for build quality. And this active noise cancellation, yeah, in the plane with headphones, I think it's okay because it filters, you know, this specific wavelength also that appears in the plane. Some rattling now from the console here. But here in vehicles, not the biggest fan of it, to be honest. What do you think about the small e-scooters on roads, by the way? I tend to think that it's really dangerous, you know. They are not going that fast. They are easily overseen, especially when it's a little bit darker. Some of them even don't have light. Yeah, and a lot of people are crashing with these, right? It's because they have, like a bicycle has like this gyro effect when you start applying speed. Big wheels are turning and they're just going straight, you know. Even if you would take hands off or if you decelerate, bicycle just goes in a way, you know, because of this gyroscopic effect. But these very small e-scooters, when you don't hold them tight, they crash directly. Yeah, well, let's go back to the cars. They are safer and bigger. 4 wheels on the ground. That's, of course, always a good thing to have. And talking about 4 wheels, this one here equipped with all-wheel drive because we have one electric motor in the front, one electric motor in the rear, and the distribution here is actually quite equal. So most of the time you have then a 50-50 distribution. That means it doesn't have any bias as for front or rear wheel. That's also an interesting thing. So also when we accelerate it, quite likable. You also, I'm not sure if you've seen it on camera earlier, when we did the acceleration, it was really like going like a boat, you know. Very interesting because the suspension is so soft. Recuperation, regenerative braking. I know that technically there is, when you're going deep in the tech, there is a difference. To be honest, I read it like 5 times and I still didn't get the real difference between recuperation and regenerative braking. I can just say that in the whole automotive industry, everyone is using it as a synonym and just saying like, okay, it is exactly, that is close, and saying it's exactly the same. And yeah, maybe if, if you're like a tech geek and know more about this, you can explain it in the comments to us. What is the real difference to that? Because most of the time I heard everyone talking it as a synonym, like recuperation equals regenerative braking. In this case here, let's concentrate on the car features. You can set it on the shifting pedals. So you can go with auto mode when you press and hold these pedals, for example. And then actually the car decides for itself. For example, when the car is in front of you, then some recuperation is happening. And when it's free then it's rather rolling. But you can also use the individual modes. So for example, I pedal here. I pedal means I lift my foot off the throttle and you have strong deceleration. That is one pedal driving, indeed. It is cancelled again at the next startup of the vehicle because again, the manufacturers do these testing cycles for the consumption. Then they have to decide if they go one pedal driving or not. And you can also set it a little bit lower, that they have strong recuperation, but not this I pedal, or even less, another step, and another step, and then the car is just rolling and doing the regenerative braking. That's a new traffic light. Doing the regenerative braking just by the brake pedal. It will not have a difference on the amount of energy that you gain back. It's just a different method of doing that if you use the brake pedal or if you let the car do it itself by lifting your foot off the throttle. And it is really a very tough decision, or what can I tell you, what is the best thing? Because if we split in three methods, one pedal driving feeling, automatic mode, like this adaptive recuperation, and rolling and using the brake pedal. Every mode has its pros and cons. The I pedal or one pedal driving feeling has the advantage, it's in a way comfortable because most of the time you do not use the brake pedal anymore. And also when you lift your foot off the throttle, you already gain back some energy, you are already decelerating. That can also be a safety thing when you switch your foot from one pedal to another. Negative side, a lot of G-force on the passengers if you're not used to drive it because you might apply too much throttle and too much brake and so on, especially for the co-drivers and so on. Then on the other side, the rolling effect can be dangerous because you lift your foot off the throttle, there's no engine brake, car is just rolling, it takes time that you switch to the brake pedal. You might get too fast then. On the other hand, it's comfortable because it doesn't apply G-force that fast, and you can finely tune the deceleration then with the brake pedal. And the adaptive one in between has the advantage that sometimes you don't have to do things yourself. There's a car in front of you, there's no recuperation, it's good. Way is free, it's rolling, that's fine. So that could be the best compromise. But yet again, there is this very important aspect of predictability, so that you know at any point what is my vehicle going to do right now. And this is also a crucial thing. And in a way I like the adaptive recuperation, and in another way I think I also like predictability. I like to know, at which torque basically is my vehicle reacting when I lift my foot off the throttle. That's, because it's adaptive recuperation, it's a little bit like adaptive cruise control, or if you think about a combustion engine, if the engine brake would always vary. Yes, it does, depending on the gear selection, for example. Tough thing to do. And so at this moment, that's the thing that it is indeed changing throughout my electric vehicle testing life. Sometimes I think I'm with one pedal driving. The other moment I think I'm with adaptive recuperation. And then I think again, maybe it's not predictable enough. Maybe different way is better. So, usually when I'm testing cars, there are certain factors I'm always sure of. For example, I don't like #capacitive BS. I like to have physical knobs. And this will remain, my whole car testing life. I'm very certain about that, But this, with the EV recuperation, it's really a thing you can argue about which is the best thing. I'm not exactly sure about that. At this moment, I think it could also be, when I set it to a slight recuperation, then I'm not exactly in the one pedal driving feeling. I need to use the brake at some point. There is some deceleration happening when I lift my foot off the throttle. So, because most of the time when you lift your foot off the throttle, you want some deceleration, but maybe not the strongest one. Not in an adaptive way, because that's not predictable enough what the car is doing. So at this moment, I feel most comfortable with a little recuperation, because that's giving me the comfort that most of the time I won't need the brake pedal. But if I need stronger braking, then I do use the brake pedal. That's also what you're used to from combustion engine cars. And at the same time, I always know how strong the recuperation is, because it's predictable. It's always in the same strength. And for this could be level 1 or level 2 of the deceleration, and then you're actually fine. So this is my standpoint at this moment. Yeah, would like to hear your opinion. What fan are you of in driving EVs? One pedal driving feeling, always strong recuperation, no recuperation via throttle pedal or energy pedal at all, you just use the brakes, or this adaptive solution in between, or then my recent solution, a little recuperation to find a compromise there that is still predictable. Very, very interesting, that whole discussion, isn't it? What else is missing here in this driving part is the agile driving. We're going in some winding corners. We know that this is not the expert thing of this vehicle. Still, we want to find out more about that once again then in the sports mode and see how it handles the very narrow corners. And here we go, sports mode once again. Wow, yeah, strong acceleration always. Hard to see, and also here with the shadows, always have to pay attention. Yeah, that A-pillar is also quite thick to see. Now here you have to see I have to steer a lot with this vehicle. Yeah, this acceleration out of the corner is super, super strong. Left and right slalom. Yeah, suspension doesn't shake up too much. It's more like this front back roll that is stronger than the other one. Here I have to steer a lot. That makes it also less agile, but out of the corners is beautiful indeed. So, what's going on there? So, like when you... Why are these guys stopping in the middle of the road? So, accelerating out is really a good thing to have. That's a truck. Interesting. So that's really a nice agility factor of this vehicle when you are even in these narrow corners, that you accelerate out and you immediately have a great boost. Never seen a truck on this track here. So here once again, bang, yeah, that's really nice. Here also in this S combination. Yeah, and here also, I wouldn't have expected that. So at high speeds, there was more body roll and so on. And usually would expect that the agile corner is an even less fun. But I have to say, this vehicle here, although it's so large and has a turning circle of a tractor like 12 meters, it's surprisingly fun in these narrow corners. Interesting finding for today indeed. So that low center of gravity then, with the battery pack underneath, that did cost us headroom, helps here in the agile performance.
This is the Nio ET7, an all-new electric sedan. They are considered somewhat like the Chinese Tesla, but are they actually better than the original? And Nio also wants to attack the European, to be concise, the German market. Here today, can they succeed? How good is this EV? We'll find out together with Thomas on Autogefühl for you. Let's go. Nio is already offering different models. This one, the ET7, would be corresponding to the Tesla Model S. However, it is lower in price compared to Mercedes EQE, for example. 70,000 euros is the entry price, and with the smaller battery. We'll talk about the battery sizes very soon, and also if it has a frunk or not. Slim integration of the daytime running lights. I also have this welcoming and goodbye function when you open or close the vehicle. That looks pretty amazing. Main headlamps in the lower part. And this car is already capable of so much more, actually, like on the top, the cameras at the sides and the LiDAR, the laser sensor, already capable of, let's say, like level 4, fully autonomous driving. even though it's not allowed yet, but it's actually then more future-proof. The logo, by the way, reminds me a little bit of Citroën, doesn't it? Just that you have this round head at the top step. So, what do you think? What is your first impression?
Well, is there a frunk? No, there is not. So just a cover here. The only thing you can do here is put in some wiper fluid.
Yeah, well, I guess they also wanted to be European in this respect. You know, the German manufacturers, when they do the EVs, they usually do not include frunks, whereas the other manufacturers, like also Tesla, the US guys, or Korean EVs and so on, they always have frunks in the front. And usually EV customers do appreciate having a frunk. Contrasting to white, there would be the deep black vehicle. So black is of course always the color that is picked very frequently. However, I think in the brighter color, it serves the car a little bit better, doesn't it? What's your opinion? Well, my impression is it looks actually pretty cool. And isn't it kind of weird that a Chinese manufacturer designs a car that more appeals to a European market, whereas, for example, Mercedes with the EQS designs a vehicle that is more appealing to the Chinese market design-wise? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? 5 meters and 10 or 201 inches is the length here, so a full-size sedan indeed. The Lucid Air would be another competitor, and yeah, of course the Mercedes EQS and the Tesla Model S, for example. And soon, of course, also the BMW i7. However, that one price-wise again a little bit higher. Yeah, and Mercedes EQE would be more price-wise, EQS more length-wise, so somewhat in between then. Wheels here, 20 or 21 inch. These here are the 20-inch wheels, also more closed aerodynamic design. And they also use a lot of European suppliers, Continental for example, and also here Brembo. These are the Brembo brakes. You can also see them with the contrasting calipers and more cameras here as well, and the very aerodynamic design also. So a very stretched, beautiful design indeed. Flush door handles at the moment, they're out. Soon going in detail about that. Let's finish the exterior. The very clean and consistent design continues here at the rear, so I think they really nailed the design game here indeed with this beautiful integration of the light strip. And also the turning indicators look quite cool. They're not cascading, but look very nice both in the rear and also in the front. Top speed, by the way, 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour. Of course, I will hit the German Autobahn for you here once again today, and we'll test that high speed. And the acceleration figure is actually 3.8 seconds, so under 4 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour with an all-wheel drive. So one electric motor in the rear, that's the stronger one, and one electric motor in the front. What about batteries and range? 3 sizes available here for the ET7, 75 kilowatt hours, 100 or 150 later, even as solid state. Very interesting. Today testing the 100 kilowatt hours battery, so range approximately 500 kilometers or 300 miles in real world conditions. First estimate, we'll do a test ride and then recheck this figure definitely. And the recharging is even more interesting because they also offer a battery swap. So the charging flap is here on the driver's side, and you have AC and DC charging. DC peak is 130 kilowatt only. By the way, you can close it here again, or it also automatically closes again when you start driving. Well, and the thing is then that you need 30 minutes for the small battery and even 40 minutes for the 100 kilowatt hour battery from 10 to 80% state of charge. That is not segment leading at all. That's rather quite bad. Well, but they thought, we don't focus on fast charging, we focus on the battery swap, and they literally really put out the existing battery just in a couple of minutes and put in another one that is already charged. The question is, of course, can they keep up this infrastructure? Can they actually build it up? Actually, does it make sense? Is it a business model for them? Can they actually pay for that? So really a lot of questions are left as for this one, but I think it's a very interesting idea to do that. They literally unscrew that from the lower part and a new one gets put in. And there are also questions arising like, okay, when I took care of my battery very well all the time, then I'm getting another one. How was that one treated? They say they want to keep up a certain quality level. They guarantee that, so the customers don't have to care about that. The question is, would you swap it for another battery or would you not? That is very, very interesting thought. My estimation is, I think it's a great idea that at a later stage you can, for example, swap it for a completely different battery with a better cell chemistry or with a different size, for example, so you can keep your car up to date and the battery is not fully connected to the car and you can always upgrade. But for, let's say, regular charging the vehicle by that, I'm not sure if they can build up a sufficient infrastructure and if it really can be a long-term business model and people won't rather rely on a normal charging. What's your take on that? It's one of two that are already existing in Germany and they really want to build a wide infrastructure of that. Will be very interesting if they can manage that. And here in this part here, they store at this moment up to like 10 to 13 batteries, 100 kilowatt hours, and they are charging them quite slowly, just up to 40 kilowatt. That is, very good for the longevity of the batteries. And then here, the car actually parks in front of that building here, and then it's autonomously driving inside, and the battery is getting out of the vehicle. The new one is getting in the vehicle again, and they really unscrew and screw it once again with automatic screwers. So very impressive technology indeed. And I would like to know from you guys, can they succeed with that? They really want to, as I said, build a wide infrastructure with that. Alone, this will be quite tricky to do that. Maybe if some other manufacturers are joining them, and they say actually they want other manufacturers to join them, this will be very exciting in the future. And also interesting is the pricing strategy. So a theoretical list price, which they had to register with the government, is about 70,000 euros for the European or German market specifically for the 75 kilowatt hour entry battery. However, this will not have a real effect because they go subscription model only, and for the 75 kilowatt hour battery is around 1,200 euros all inclusive, full service leasing, and for the model above that maybe, let's say, like 1,500 or something. But I think it's a wrong decision to go only in this direction. Maybe offer it as an additional service, but going subscription only, and you can never really own and purchase the vehicle. So yeah, I think just doing this one offer won't be enough to capture a market. You have to go for full service leasing, maybe normal leasing, but also normal purchasing, because people want to have a choice in that respect. Or what do you think?
And checking here for panel gaps, this looks actually very good. Oh, yeah, and sometimes the car is opening or closing itself. I'm talking about that here, when you open the vehicle, there it is, the door handles come out. See here, yeah, you can also have this horn effect. And yeah, this actually is a very interesting thing, because have you seen that? So I just put my hand on the inside and then it already opens slightly here. So this is like a helping function, and this is then also here equipped with a soft close. Wow.
But even if there is soft touch, Autogefühl test does need to include the door closing sound. Let's slam it.
And bang.
Whoa, let me try it again. That sounded really good. Well, it has some kind of a modern, high quality, but also some kind of a vintage G-Class door closing sound, I would say. Or what's your take? And at the same time, we have frameless doors. So I've never seen a car with frameless doors with such good door closing sound. Here you can also see the dual insulation. Inside of the doors, this is like Mercedes uses this Neotex material, like a mix of microfiber and leatherette, so feels like a neoprene a little bit. Really nice in the touch and in the look. Below that, here, and then we'll also find in the middle console soon, this is like a sustainable rattan taken from the rainforest, because it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So this is then a renewable resource, so to speak, and feels and looks really awesome indeed. Some space here. It's like an emergency release for the door, because here this is the usual one from the inside, and this is electric. It always needs a manual release as well. Nio entry bridge, I think this is still covered with some foil. Yeah, this is like a blue protection foil, because this is one of the very, very early vehicles, so you could also peel that off. Then first look at the interior, look at that. The steering wheel, yeah, it looks Citroën-like, doesn't it? With the logo and also the
the style of the steering wheel, doesn't it? Then you do have digital gauges. That's of course better in the Model 3 or Model Y. So I really like to have digital gauges, 10.2 inch that is. And then you also have a vertical screen, soon more details to that. The only miss in this vehicle I find so far is here. These seats here are animal skin only. And in a supposed to be sustainable EV in 2022, no way they do that. By the way, also a bright interior styling is available. That once again, sadly, animal skin. But, oh hey, someone had it cozy right there, right?
So as for the animal skin seating, they say they will not offer alternatives for the ET7, but for the next models after this one, they will also supply some alternatives like a high-grade leatherette, for example. We'll see about that. And the seating position from the ergonomics, however, makes a quite good impression as the first hand. Here the front part, electronic enlengthenment of that, and I can also adjust height and so on, everything electronic. As for the steering wheel control, we can also adjust that electronically. Not here at the column. I think that's always an easier solution, but they also try to keep everything very clean. This is more this Tesla approach, and we'll also have a confirmation of that soon here in the screen. This will be super interesting. Headroom. Well, I'm 189 or 6'2", and at the side leaves some headroom, and here beneath the glass roof even more. Look at that glass roof. It is a fixed one, but a beautiful integration, also nice with a microfiber here.
Yeah, I know visual proof is a thing, so that you're not fooled by me. Look at that here. So this is not a blue color here at the entry badge. This is this typical protection foil you also found at some electronics and so on. You can just peel it off, and then you'll find the real entry badge here. So yeah, there you can see cars here at Autogefühl are sometimes really, really fresh off the factory. That's why then yeah. There we go. Now we have it how it really looks.
So the best thing here in the cockpit is now if you join me in a POV, point of view. First of all here, 10.2 inch digital instruments, clear to read. And then 12.3 inch touchscreen. And here, this is Nomi. This is a voice assistant and actually has some kind of, let's say, human machine interface. You can see here blinking eyes and so on. And hey, Nomi.
Hello.
Play music.
Start playing for you.
No matter how good you think somebody is.
That's interesting. Hey, Nomi.
I am here.
Stop music.
Got it.
There we go. And it really moves, and it's kind of like spooky in a way, but it's also a cool and interesting idea, right? And it works very well, the voice assistant. And then on the steering wheel, you have these button fields. And the thing is, they are real buttons. So they give you haptic feedback. This here for cruise control, for example. And on the right side as well, so when you, for example, hold this one here longer, then you control here the, let's say like the daily averages and so on. So you have real buttons right there. At the same time, it's somewhat also digital interface. So that's actually quite cool. And then we also have that huge screen here. And wait a minute, are we in a Tesla? So this one looks really Tesla copycat alike, doesn't it? And it's really an interesting phenomenon. So definitely a lot of Chinese companies have also really astonishing innovations. I mean, look at the Nomi assistant here. This is also something they thought of themselves, basically. However, here in the screen software, maybe that's a cultural thing. So, when I was in China the first time a couple of years ago, they explained it to me in a way that when you copy something there, it's more like it's an honor that your stuff is getting copied because it's so good. When you more think about the Western philosophy, if you copy something, it's considered stealing, and protection of own property and also intellectual property is something that in the Western world is valued very, very highly. So maybe this is some kind of different cultural understanding. I mean, you can really start a very interesting discussion right there. Join me in the comments. Hey, Nomi.
I am here.
Is Nio better than Tesla?
I can't seem to find that place.
That's a diplomatic answer. And also to adjust the steering wheel. Hey, Nomi.
Hey,
Adjust the steering wheel.
please use the button on the steering wheel.
Now I can also adjust the mirror here. Then in this case with the left buttons. Or then the right mirror here then with the right buttons. And of course, take a selfie.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, no me.
So let's take a detailed look at this infotainment system. Here is the map. The map data is supplied by here. It also has some 3D views, but no satellite view. And when you are putting in like a very distant destination, like here Barcelona, for example, from Berlin, that's like really long. Let's see how long does the routing take. And the thing is, it does not add automatic charging stops along the route. This is not possible yet, obviously. Here see, they got no suggestions and so on. This is like where the battery is supposed to be depleted. However, the GPS does show charging stations nearby, so that is actually possible. Then, if you want to go back to the, you see here, there's like a like this gesture takes you back always to the main screen. You can always have this main screen as well, or then here the vehicle setting. And this looks like super much Tesla-like, right? Here also how I can adjust the light, daytime running light, for example, or then here ambient lighting. You can seat adjustment, or also the climate control, so it always stays in low area. And this is like 100% Tesla. Chase like this, or also then with the Nomi assistant, of course, that is also possible. And fragrance, it also has some like scents if you like to have that. I rather keep them deactivated. You can also have different levels of that. Tap to set the or here like off again. For heated steering wheel or heated seats, you can also do it like this. We know that from Tesla as well. There's the heated steering wheel. And when I press here the hotkey in the lower part, then I can access the driving modes. I can also click them through. That is possible. Or here, and then it also shows that in the Sport Plus mode, I have this fastest acceleration. Otherwise, it is not as fast. And this is actually a cool function, because then you can drive a little bit more relaxed, and also the the suspension and so on, everything adjusts according to that. Also the recuperation, we will test that in the driving modes. There's no special setting for recuperation with pedals or something, but here in the custom mode, actually, there you can change the ride height, you can change the regenerative braking, standard, low or very low. So this would be strong, this would be weaker. I will also test it while driving. And here you can pick your own acceleration figure. Now that is something, right? So yeah, this is live tuning of a vehicle now. So yeah, very interesting. You can really fine tune that. Why not? And this is something indeed you would do once, and then it's actually fine. What about some basic functions here? For example, you see tire pressure, average consumption, projected range with about 80% state of charge, the past consumption, and also here the battery status and so on. Nice visualization. So yes, it is Tesla copycat in this case, but it is well done actually as for the copycat function. And you get along with this system, you can pick most of the things once, and the rest while driving, then you don't have to do that much actually. Rear view camera, and you also have this drone view from above. That looks actually quite good, nice resolution, and also the integration of the screen, how big the screen is. That's actually quite cool. And here when you switch to D, then you have the front view camera. One more thing to consider here, main menu, phone connection. No Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, Bluetooth only, and for a lot of car buyers, that is a no-go nowadays. And that indeed also, just like Tesla, also Tesla is losing customers because they're not offering Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. There has recently been a survey actually that for over 80% of car customers, it is an absolute necessity that the car supports Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, otherwise they won't buy it. Well, besides all the digital stuff, once again, the interface as for the haptic and so on is really nice. Also the gear selector here, it really feels very nicely put together when you move it. Side is the P button, And here on the other side, this is like a hotkey for the driving modes and hazard lights, and then the door lock. Storage area, a flat one for your smartphone, is also inductive charging pad. Huge underneath space of this flying console. And there's also no classic glove box. Instead, you have this here. You can open it from this side, or also then, of course, from this side. Then you have USB-A charger and another USB-C charger, and yeah, quite some space underneath. And here for the armrest box, there is a safe box mode, and then you, for example, can enter this gesture password. And then actually the center box is sealed, and you can only open it when you go back to the storage box mode, and then you have to repeat it, and then it is opened again. Well, Nomi is always having fun. Rear seating area, and once again, take a look here at the panel gaps, very well aligned. And then when I just move my hand on the inside, seeing that? It comes a little bit towards me. It's a nice solution. And even though when I slam it, what a great sound also for the rear door. And by the way, also the soft close here is available for the rear door. And then let's take a look here at the rear doors from the inside. Also the nice, let's say, microfiber neoprene-like texture here on the top part. Beautiful. Then again, this wood. And here once again. So this is, by the way, the window lever. And it has even a clicking sound, so they have a nice mix of haptics and other things. Oh, there again, oh, I need to peel off some more foil. And here, the first look at the rear area. It looks kind of spacious. Will it also be the case? Soon more to that. And once again, the design is really clean, and the panoramic roof, you can see here, it is split, you know, 1 and 2. And this also should leave a lot of headroom. Not sure about you, but isn't it kind of like rewarding or satisfying seeing that peel here coming off? Here we go. Oh, there we go. Now, ta-da! Here we go with the rear seating area. Well, you can see here, when the seat is set to my driving position, I have a lot of legroom. And that's the thing about the Chinese-built vehicles. They pay more attention to legroom in the rear than to the trunk length, actually, which you can soon see. This is actually a strategy. You might also know that when the Europeans, the Germans, they sell their sedans in China, they usually sell it as L, as the long version. Even an A4, Audi A4 for example, is an A4L there, because they want more legroom here in the rear. Very interesting. Wow, that's acres of space in the legroom. For my feet, the seat would need to be put a little bit higher though. As for the headroom, well, it gets close. I still have some headroom when I lean backwards or when I lean my head against the head restraint, and it gets really close, but it works for tall adults indeed. However, you can see here the inclination of the rear bench is more comfortable than the Mercedes EQS, I would say. But in general, the seating position here could be better. As for the rear bench, it's a little bit short. I mean, you can see here how, you know, like how my knees are bent. In the middle part, you can also very well sit. It's quite soft, actually softer than most other vehicles. Headroom also does work. USB-C charger, and then you also have your own climate controls here in the rear, for example. It's actually quite fancy. Other than that, we have ISOFIX at the outside seats, and then we have here the middle console with a nice wood, once again, USB-C charger, and you can also open these cup holders here in the front. For the trunk opening here, you press and hold the key fob, then it does open, and well, you see it is not a hatch style, not a fastback opening. I would have wished for that. It is this separate trunk, therefore the opening is limited. It's actually quite okay though. So you see here a backpack fits in a vertical way. Taking a closer look here, the length is 1.40 meters. The width is also 1.40 meters. So these are actually quite good dimensions. A sedan of that size could, however, have a little longer trunk. And here the height is 45 centimeters or 18 inches. The cable has to be flying around right here because underneath this cover is hardly any reasonable space. And you can see here, there's only a ski hatch to reach through the cabin. You cannot fold this here. By the way, that would be very important to me. There is still a normal button here underneath to open the trunk as well. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, and you know what this sign means here. And this one, German Autobahn, the German motorway,
Well, this is where this car has to face the test. Let's put it here to the Sport Plus mode, where we can have the fastest acceleration. This air suspension here already delivers a very comfortable ride indeed. Now it gets a little bit stiffer, also lowers the riding height. It also tests assistance systems and so on. And now we'll do a flying start from 40 kilometers an hour. That's very slow on this and let's go. 130, 150, 160. Woo! That went quick, so super quick. The steering wheel got a little bit light, so didn't have the best controlled feeling, but still was reasonably quick and also a nice distribution to all the four wheels. Definitely a little bit rear wheel bias. And let's see, steering here is now quite stiff actually. If we compare it with the comfort mode, yeah, then it gets lighter. So sport definitely better for higher speeds, because now when it's a little bit lighter, it's comfortable but doesn't give you the best feeling then indeed. On the left side of the steering wheel,
Pilot is on.
Yes, pilot is on, Nomi. I heard that.
Please control the steering.
Okay, so I started off with saying Nomi is a very interesting and cool feature, but now after experiencing that, I rather say that, well, I don't want some robot kid telling me what to do while driving, do you? So,
Highlight is on.
yeah, that's what I mean. So, I guess, and that's what you can do actually. Yeah, and that's the thing here always with this interface. It's the same with Tesla. Sometimes you do need to do things while driving. For example, deactivating Nomi. Goodbye, Nomi. Now you're turned off. Well, still showing me the eyes though. Yeah, but let's see if Nomi knows.
Highlight is on.
What the hell? Sort of turned Nomi off. Laughed too early. So, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing, you know. So there's something wrong, and then
Highlight is on.
okay, so I won't use the cruise control. So yeah, that's the thing about this interface. Yeah, about that. Here, changing lanes. Wow, suspension is really nice. That was changing lanes in comfort mode. Let's do it in Sport Plus again. Let's see about that. Yeah, it's more the feeling from the steering wheel that changes. That's the biggest difference actually. So, but that feels very, very nice. So, suspension does give you comfort and also sporty driving. Noise insulation here at the speeds, you know, like 120 kilometers an hour was our main speed. Then here, that's like 70 miles an hour. It was also nicely done. So, actually, from all like the hard facts, so to speak, that is really cool. Yeah, and software-wise, we have seen a lot of great solutions, but we also see that when it comes to some concise things, then it can also be, yeah, can also be irritating. I'm still, you know, I shouldn't do it while driving, you know, and should maybe stand still, and then maybe I can ask Nomi to shut up. Hey, Nomi.
I am here.
Can you shut up?
Muted.
Oh. That's a nice idea.
Highlight is on.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Sudden rage burst. So let me repeat that. Why would I mute the system and then I click something?
Highlight is on. Please control the steering.
Yeah. Okay. That's the last time I will use the cruise control for now. Let's focus on driving.
Here now in that Autobahn corner, let's see which driving mode I'm in, Sport Plus mode. Yeah, it does lean somewhat in, so it's, I mean, it's not super sporty, but actually quite nice. I think they found a good compromise for that. So I'm really, really fan of that suspension here. It's also fun to drive. So it is a big and heavy vehicle, definitely, but we got a lot of fun. Now 80 to 120. Oh, plop, that's it already. So that went really quick as well. Wow. So driving hardware-wise is really, really nice, awesome. And also silent, as I said. Well, as for the rest of the assistance systems, let's see. Oh, unlimited speed, let's go. Woo! And goodbye, everyone. That's German Autobahn Pure now. And top speed reaching, plop, 200 kilometers an hour. 125 miles an hour exactly, and that's the top speed. Now we do hear some wind noises. Let's see when they disappear. Here at 170 kilometers an hour, so that's like 100 miles an hour, something like that. So really good at high speeds. Just at the top speed, there is where strange wind noises do appear. But the car is still very good in control here, also at higher speeds. So can they keep up hardware-wise, riding-wise, from the chassis feel and so on, with the European manufacturers, especially with the German premium manufacturers, from the driving feel? I would say, from that first impression, yeah, they can mainly, So, yeah, maybe the Germans add some more sportiness to it, but this one, yeah, it feels really good, definitely. And in the past I would have said, okay, they are more playful in the user interface and so on, and the Germans are easier to control while driving, but we have seen a lot of mishaps now in user interface in recent German cars. Yeah, I mean, Audi is still quite conservative. BMW just lost the climate control, otherwise good. Mercedes does more playing around now with Chinese customers in focus as well, that they have more things moved into the infotainment system. Yeah, but actually I started this review with saying like, oh, Nomi is really an innovative feature and like a unique, cool thing about this car. Now I have to say, while driving it, it's one of the worst things, and maybe I can turn... Hey, Nomi.
Hello.
Switch off completely.
Okay, bye.
Okay, let's try that again.
Highlight is on.
No! I have to speed up that vehicle as an excuse to that. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And actually this story here in this driving part is the story about modern cars and about infotainment and about unnecessary tech stuff, Yes, we want progress. We want cool route planning and so on, great navigation, nice handy tech features, voice control which makes our life easier. Yeah, but the thing is, we want things that make our life easier and not something that tells me over and over again, pilot is on, I'm the robot kid. After I have disabled it 5 times, Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's a problem, but I must say, the drive here, the German Autobahn test here, driving-wise, really mastered very well already. What about the consumption? So what did it do when I was driving faster here now? So the, let's see, the consumption is there. So it did go up now. So before we could score some 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So yeah, this more like some 30 kilowatt hours on 100 miles approximately. So we can indeed score some 500 kilometers or 300 miles of real-world range. Yes, while driving fast now, consumption did go up to about 25 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So of course that does cost more. But the thing is, with aerodynamics, they really play a major role on the Autobahn, on motorway. It's like 1/3 of the consumption usually. And here, let's accelerate out of the corner. Oh, you hear that? Some tire squeaking. The rear doesn't come around that much, so it does push you a little bit over the front, as for understeering and so on. Pretty interesting, definitely. Yeah, back to the consumption. So on the motorway, it's like 2/3 counts for the aerodynamics, and that's where the car is, playing out all the cards. So this can indeed be a good vehicle for. Aren't they driving? Is it like a traffic light here? For like also long EV motorway also, and so this is very, very good thing to notice. Definitely, the efficiency seems really be on spot. As for the different driving modes and recuperation, are they parking here or what is going on? It's not. Must have been a traffic light, right? It's quite unusual that they're indeed. So usually there are hardly traffic lights when going on the motorway. This doesn't happen too often. So the recuperation differs a little bit per driving mode, and we can also go to this custom mode as I had shown to you earlier. And let's try it around. Yeah, acceleration good, and then regenerative braking. Let's start with very low. Nomi is also doing something on. Hey Nomi.
Hello.
Disable completely.
Okay, bye.
I don't believe that. So very low. Let's see. Throttle, off the brakes, nothing is happening. Now low. Throttle, off the throttle. Hardly feel anything. Standard. Throttle, off the throttle. So here it also doesn't change too much actually. So they don't seem to have a philosophy of hard regenerative braking. So this is not a one pedal drive thing. Not at all. That's interesting. As if it wouldn't really, react. Now from 60 kilometers an hour, let's accelerate. I need to watch it first, safety first. From 70 kilometers an hour, let's go. 130, 150. Strange. I mean, I set acceleration to 3.8, but it didn't feel that sporty as in Sport Plus. I don't know. Let's see. We can accelerate out even further. Yeah, it's definitely more spontaneous. Not sure if it almost seems like the custom mode would be a little bit broken or something. I don't know, but yeah, here acceleration really nice, and also the stability here at high speeds is very, very nicely done. Wow. Yeah, this slices through the air. That's how it's feeling, Okay, yes, I found it. It's called It's called Nomi Pilot, and if you deactivate that, you just get the Tesla sound when the Drive Pilot is active. Yeah, and how good is it actually? So here, let's see, lane is being kept. It does go a little bit back and forth, just a little bit. See, so far so good. And what about the lane change? Here we go, automated lane change. Yeah, that is also well done. Let's see, back with the lane change. Of course, I supervise everything. There we go, now speed is being reduced. So when we are in that mode, actually it works quite well. Just at the point where you have transitions, when you activate and deactivate them, sometimes the transition seems a little bit harsh, but overall, I think it's quite okay yet, as long as you're not like in the...
over the speed limit.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I did find a solution now to turn this pilot is on thing, but obviously there's still something left. So yes, you can deactivate some of the Nio functions, but of it, I was just thinking if I can just grab it out there. Okay, yeah, but at least we solved some of the problems. You know, when you did not discover a feature of the car firsthand, I mean, sometimes for us, the thing is, do we rather experience the car as the customer would do it firsthand? Or like things like these, you know, do you really plan them through? And sometimes I feel like experiencing the car is a better, more authentic way to do it. And I also thought about, like, you know, maybe I should edit it out when I was searching for that Nio thing, but I think it really stood for the user interface here. That, I mean, things will solve over time, some things, yes, definitely. But in a way, it stays that digital and also, in a way, also annoyingly playful, you know what I mean? So that is definitely one catch to me, and there will always be moments where stuff like this does happen. Well, and what about some city driving for important questions like, when I use Sport Plus mode at the traffic light?
You are over the speed limit.
I wasn't. Maybe just like 0.3 seconds and just 1 or 2 kilometers. But I was really taking care. It was like a 0 to 50 and then down again. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. That was just for fun purpose. I really checked that there was no one. So now I stay in the comfort mode. But yeah, you can have really some tire squeaking there. Very interesting. Yeah, other than that, it is once again very silent in here. You have also some air ionization, for example, that the air stays fresh inside the city, for example. And it actually doesn't feel too bulky or something. You know, these electric vehicles, they always have a low center of gravity because the battery pack is in the bottom of the vehicle. And therefore, they feel still quite agile, even though they are large and heavy or something. And as for the energy consumption, so last 100 kilometers, so here the average, and we had some slowdown. I was also like on like the city motorway where there's a lot of traffic and so on, but you can like run steadily, lower speeds, good for consumption. But we also had high speed track, and it's still here once again at kind of like the figure confirmed, 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, so like 32 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. So indeed, we can confirm this 500 kilometers or 300 miles of range. This car is really extremely efficient. And it is a very surprising result for today, you know, because I came here and expecting, okay, like the Europeans, especially like the Germans, they still need more in hardware, driving-wise and so on. But then there are like software innovations from Chinese companies and so on, and they may be leading the software. And I think the thing is, yeah, they really caught up hardware-wise, and it drives very well. And the software, I mean, is definitely, it's like Tesla, you know, and it can do a lot of things, and it is great, and in a way ahead of the Germans as well. But when you start driving the vehicle and the combination of driving and using the software and the user interface, it starts to get a little bit annoying, and you see that they wanted to do too much, that they want to be too playful, and that they did already think more in autonomous driving and not as much driver focused. So, and from a driver focused perspective, that's still what we do here on this channel and what I'm also about. I want to drive, you know. Yeah, maybe sometimes when there are like traffic situations, it can be good when you also have autonomous features or something. But basically, we want to drive the vehicles, and we want to have simple, good user interfaces. And this is, yeah, at some point a little bit too complicated or a little bit too playful. I also realized when I was watching, I mean, this Nio thing, even if there are no sounds, it always changes in the visualization, even while driving, even at higher speeds. And yeah, that's just something distracting, you know, and getting away from the real focus of driving. Is it a buy, yes or no? Well,
great hardware definitely, such a great drive, and also interesting software solutions, great build quality indeed. So they have done a lot of things really extremely well with this vehicle. But there are 4 things that are actually, with this model, not okay with me, and that might lead to a conclusion of they have a very promising future, but not with this very model yet. Animal skin seats only, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, not a good fast charging capability, and no, the battery swap is no alternative to that, and this distracting NOMI interface, which is a little bit over the top. And these 4 factors, at this moment, I would say no buy. And maybe the thing also, if you want to buy a car and own it, because they don't offer that in Europe, you have to go for a subscription model. So those 4 or maybe 5 factors at the moment, rather I would say no. But we've seen a lot of super interesting and very well made features that we can say, does this brand have a future in Europe? And in that case, I have to say, yeah, they sure can.
And full beans. Ooh, that's nice. A lot of people might think that starting up a car company is a crazy idea. Just ask Elon Musk. It isn't cheap. It takes a lot more time and effort than most people could possibly imagine. And guess who the guy was responsible for the chief design work on the Tesla Model S? None other than Peter Rawlinson, who just so happens to be the CEO and Chief Technical Officer of Lucid Car Company. So after his successes at Tesla, apparently he was still hungry for more. He decided that he still had more to offer. And Lucid decided that what they wanted to do was to start from a completely clean sheet and reimagine just exactly what the electric car could be. We're going to take a deep look into this today, the Lucid Air Dream, the first of its kind, and see exactly what Generation 2 of the electric car might look like. The Lucid Air Dream is their first entrance to market, and as such they've decided to hit the ground at the top to begin with. It's a performance model, and the sticker price is $175,000, but there's only a limited number of these to begin with, 520. Why? Because 520 is the optimal mile range of this vehicle. So in case you're a regular viewer and you're thinking, okay, Brian, well, it's a limited run vehicle, that's great, it's a concept, but what does that have to do with me? The answer is that in order to establish everything that needs completely redesigning from scratch, it makes the most sense to start at the top in order to provide all of the tech you need for then coming down to mass market appeal further on. So the Lucid Air range is supposed to expand way beyond this. Well, this is officially the first car to break the 500-mile barrier. And if all of that sounds like a lot of, yeah, okay, on a test track with a backwind, with the right direction happening, no, that's a very realistic figure. Now, this is the performance model. So this car, as it stands here right now, is capable of delivering 452 miles of range. And that's not crazy fantasy. We have taken this out for extensive driving today, and I can say that even playing with it and having a lot of fun, you can still expect a realistic range of 400 miles. So how did they do it? Well, come on, let's take a closer look and find out. So let's start round at the front of this car. And I think naysayers or people who like a bit more flair and dynamism might take their first look at the Lucid and say, well, doesn't it look a little bit kind of, I don't know, plain? Well, there's a lot of story behind that. First of all, you have to consider that the way that this car was designed was always going to be function over form to begin with. The function dictates the form. So this car has a drag coefficient of 0.2, and a lot of technology had to go into achieving that. But in redesigning and reimagining exactly what's possible, they've also changed the entire architecture of how they think about the car. Sound dramatic? Well, just consider this light array at the front. In order to achieve this, which crushes the entire front area here and massively positively influences not only the aerodynamicism of the car, but also the available storage in the front, they had to completely redesign the way that headlights work. These air intakes suck air in off the road and then actually create twin tornado effects directly behind the bumper on either side. And the reason they've done that is because the radiator, rather than having one standard radiator approach, has been split into two. It's either side of this bumper, and by creating a vortices of this air behind it, they're able to hit the entire area of that radiator all at once. Now that maximizes the cooling potential instead of focusing the air draw only on one specific area. And in doing that, they not only increase the efficiency of the cooling, but they also maximize the potential load space of the frunk. You can see another way in which the aerodynamics have been so inventively approached just here. There's a buildup of pressure that is created just here on the front edge of the car. So there's actually a channel here through which the air can come. And then if you look slightly higher up on the bonnet, this is where that air is pushed. And it comes right through the bonnet, right up, forcing that air down the side flank of the vehicle. 4.97 meters or 196 inches in length. Several journalists have said that this car visually reminds them of French cars, especially of the 1940s. I don't know that I can see that, but what this really evokes to me is Americana, especially the muscle cars of yesteryear. I think it's a really great mix of both those big, bold, impressive flanks, but also the modern of the new. Just look at this roof. This is one piece of glass that stretches all the way back to here, and then more glass coming through. So an entirely glass canopy. And in order to make that work, only aluminium has been used elsewhere on the chassis, giving it the strength and the light weight that it needs in order to provide the performance that it provides. I like greatly, for example, this light blade that runs the entire length of the boot, and the styling choice they made to make the boot one piece. So if you have a look here, there's no seam because the boot runs all the way round into the side. And that's going to do two things: give you a massive opening when we open this up, we'll take a look in a little bit, but also stylistically make sure that there's no interruption to this line that comes right the way through. Speaking of boots, let's take a look inside this one and see just how much available space there is at the rear. Well, 626 litres of load, and if you're struggling to see back there because of the black, let me flip down one of the seats so you can get a little bit of light through just to get a sense. Now, if you're wondering why it is that you only get latches to operate these seats in the back of this car, the reason is something that Tesla have experienced, which is charming people going through the quarter lights to access the boot at the rear. Well, as a security feature, that's been removed from the Lucid, so you don't have to worry about anything being put back here. As you can see, you have rather a lot of room in this boot, plenty enough room for two decent sized suitcases. You also have a 60-40 split on the rear seats and a ski hatch back here to fit your skis. There is a further storage area underneath here, which is going to be perfect for cables and any ancillaries. Sadly, we've gone through the age when people think it's necessary to put spare tires in cars. Still not completely convinced about that, but I guess that is the way that the industry's going. And nice storage bins either side to drop down even more things that you might want to store. Here I think we have a bespoke bag that's ready to receive all of the charging cables. This could be one of those takes where I stand here for about an hour. You can also open the frunk using the key. Let's take a look at that. Again, please make some allowance for the fact it's pre-production, so they work a little bit better than this. Now this is really one of the most obvious statements of where all of that space saving that took place within the front bumper design has really paid off. I don't know if you've taken the chance to see our reviews of either the Taycan S or recently the Mercedes. If not, then please check them out. We'll link to them below. But this, by anybody's standards, is a very large frunk. When you look at the opening aperture here, you think, well, That's not so impressive. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not endless. But that's before you've had a look down here at the storage bin. Just look at this available space. It's huge. All right, well, I've played with the key for a bit now, so I hope I won't embarrass myself quite so much. 2 quick squeezes of the key. There we are. And the car is unlocked. And as you can see, the visual cue to tell you that that's going on is that these handles have raised prominently so you can gain access to the vehicle. As you do that and you open it up, you get your first glimpse into the cabin. And right from the start, you can see this mix of very high quality materials on the door. Now, I think it's important that we do mention sustainability. I have talked to Lucid at length about their choice of materials. We have a wool here and there are leather options on the seats. They are very keen on the idea of sustainability. They're not quite yet sold on the idea that it should have an animal-free interior as its only option, but they want to move in that direction. So I think as this is their first car to market, they're maybe just a bit nervous about starting that way. But I would hope very much that's where they're going to end up. In the meantime, the materials they have gone with are really excellent quality. I'm 5'10" in height, or 178 centimeters. And as you can see, even though I have a particularly long torso, there is plenty of room left available for me thanks to this glass roof. What you're looking at here is a 32-inch 5K display. And if that's ringing your bells and thinking, that just reminds me of something, to me, it does look a little bit reminiscent of the Taycan. I have to be honest, I think I prefer their execution slightly, but they have had a bit more practice, in fairness. Sorry, Lucid, that's a bit unfair, isn't it? But I just like the way that that sits together. This looks different to me, and the reason I think I find that a little jarring is I'm just not quite sure immediately what's here for me to interact with in a tactile way and what's here for purely visual purposes. Now, that has been in some way signposted for me by this segmentation. As you can see, this middle section here is the effective driver's display. Now, Lucid have said that they wanted to make a decision, at least at launch, to really have a fairly sparse offering in terms of what the driver actually sees. They want the focus to remain on the road. They don't want too much extraneous information here. Now, because I have a very long torso, this steering wheel is set pretty low down. And that means in most cars that I drive, the very top of the display is usually covered up over the steering wheel. If, by the way, anybody's really picky out there and says, why do you do that, Brian? That's not how you should approach things. I spent a long time reading up on this. The correct way to place your steering wheel is to put your arms out in front of you and to rest your wrists on there. And because of my dimensions, as you could see, I could even have that wheel a little bit lower. That would be a bit more comfortable for me. But as you can understand, that would block off the instrument cluster. It's not only in this car, that's in every car I drive. So I'm just used to that. That's why I'm a huge fan in my life of head-up displays. They decided not to put one in here, even though there is the space within the dashboard to fit one. And the reason is they just wanted to keep this simple, uncluttered, and only contain the information you need. And I think that's nicely presented. You could say it's a little bit dull, that's personal taste, but I think the opposite can be true, that it's a little bit challenging to have far too much information available to you, and that seems to be a growing trend within driver cockpits. So honestly, I'm a bit relieved just to find a display that only tells you what you need to know. If I drag down from here, it seamlessly goes straight into the middle section here, which means the passenger can check out any music they want without interfering with your line of sight. That's a pretty neat trick. This is also a pretty neat trick. Push this button right here. And the central display disappears into the dashboard, which shows you up this large storage bin right underneath it. That's a smart use of space. I don't think you need to get in there all the time. It's nice that it's available, and it's nice to get that out of the way sometimes. And if we want to get it back, we push on the same arrow and back it comes. This is going to be your standard welcome screen, And this is the most important feature that you're standardly going to want to access. This is where the drive modes are located. Now, I would have much preferred a physical button for this, but in fairness to Lucid, when you actually start driving this car, as you can see from my arm length, it's very natural to switch between these modes without actually needing to think about it too much. The thing that's a little bit less obvious is if I want to change the level of regeneration, I have to push and hold and then change like that. Now that's obviously something that you're not going to be that enthusiastic about messing around with while you're driving. I think that's something that they're going to be looking at a little bit later on in terms of a later software iteration and how they want to develop things. Little quirky feature is this button here for the glove box. Push that and it opens. Well, that's quite a nice touch. I can't help but wonder if by the time I can afford to buy one of these third hand, will it still work then? I'm not completely convinced, but I'll look forward to finding out. Now, somewhat controversially, but quite unsurprisingly, all of the heating and cooling can be accessed through here. If you have a look down at the bottom, that's going to be this button here. Now, they said in their research, they acknowledged that some people still like having tactile physical buttons. Hello, that would be me. But this isn't really my idea of that or how it works. This is my knockout feature for the front. Look at this. Floating front sun visors. I've never seen that before. Does that exist on any other car? I can't think of one, but I'd love to know if you can. Look at that. That's just really stylish and effortless. How effective that is in day-to-day driving, I'll be really interested to see when we take the car out. Steering wheel's a bit of an odd one for me. I like the shape and the position is good, and this approach to styling not only looks nice, but it feels good too. The bit that I have a problem with is the diameter of this steering wheel. My favorite steering wheel ever is the Porsche Taycan, which is not an original steering wheel. It's used on lots of other Porsches, but it's tight and it's responsive and it's slim, and that's really important because it's a performance car and it needs to be agile, so the steering has to reflect that. Now here in this car, you have tight responsive steering, but this to me is a very large diameter steering wheel. Well, the back is really the big story of this car. Wow, it's cavernous. Now, this car has a 22 unit battery pack, and that's really important because that's there to maximize the range. You can also get the lower editions of this car with an 18 unit battery pack. Now that does obviously impact on the total range, but as the overall total range of this vehicle is so incredibly impressive, it's not going to bother most people, but it is going to make a big difference to what happens back here, because this is the area in which the battery packs are removed from if you don't have the extra ones. And that creates an extra depth available for feet of around about that. And that really changes the comfort back here. Now this is nice, and as you can see, I have acres of space. This seat in front is set for me, and I have very short legs. So it's a much fairer comparison if I slide over and show you how much room there is when the seat is set for a normal human being. But look at that. That's crazy amounts of room. You really can sit 3 people back here in the most comfort. And for an electric car, especially one that really isn't terribly long, that's a very big achievement. But not only that, if the camera comes round and you have a look at my head, because I have all of this legroom, I'm free to sink down into that seat slightly, and really pleasingly, despite that coupe line, look at my head. I have space. I don't know if you've checked out Thomas's video for the EQS. Please do. I just have to believe that that car was designed really thinking that only children were ever going to sit in the back of it. A combination of massive amounts of leg space and very comfortable headroom mean that I could travel a long way in the back of this in really, really good comfort. All of the materials are finished with just as much care and attention in the back as they are in the front. Of course, you have your own heating and cooling controls. You have a nice storage area back here. It really does feel like you are sitting in a premium car. And given that this is their first attempt at doing this, you have to be impressed with what they've achieved. Sticking with that theme of comfort, when you want to gain entry to the rear doors, you might standardly expect that that's as much room as you're going to have. Well, a 90-degree opening on the rear door here. So look how easy that is to gain and access to and exit from. Combine that with the self-closing door. It's really quite hard to see how you could have an awful lot more comfort back there. The battery pack provides 118 kilowatt hours and over 300 watt charging. Now, one of the smartest things, in my opinion, that Lucid achieved when they designed this car was to make their charging port universally accessible. And what that means is whatever the charging situation you have available for this car is, you will be able to access it. And that's thanks to a very clever unit that sits within the car, which they've called a Wunderbox or Wonderbox. And that has not only the battery management system, but also power inverter system, which allows you not only to put power in, but also take power out. So further down the route as the technology develops, you'll also be able to use this as an energy sink for your house. That's a pretty bold statement, but given the rising cost of energy, that's actually quite an appealing prospect. We managed to find a nice bit of almost open road out amongst the redwoods just outside of San Francisco. Sadly not the giant redwoods, but probably it's a bit harder to drive at speed around there anyway. Obviously there are speed restrictions here, but what we do have lots of are really nice windy roads, and that's an excellent place to just get a feel for how good the handling of this car is. So it's not a light car, it's over 2,000 kilos or over 5,000 pounds in weight. And when you start throwing it around, although you can feel that weight, what you get more than anything else is a deep sense of being impressed about how all of these components are put together in order to provide torsional stiffness to the whole way the car sits. One of the things the designers told us, which I guess is pretty obvious but still pretty cool, is that the advantage of electric cars over internal combustion engines, because they don't need to fit any components underneath, you really can create a perfect environment underneath the car for the flow of air. So a completely flat plane. But one of the things that's particularly impressive about the bottom of this car is apparently that isn't an optimal aerodynamic environment. What you want is a slight bow at the bottom to create the lift where you want it, the downforce where you don't. And needless to say, what the battery pack wants to be is completely flat and level. So if you want to put a slight curve in, well, that is a significant extra amount of effort. And you might start to ask yourself, is that really worth it? Well, when you start driving this car and you feel the way that it behaves, nothing about it feels in any way stressed or forced. The components work so very well together. It's not just one thing in this car, it's everything together. Loads of weight's been saved here by using less material, but more materials that work well together. So the strength of the battery packs and the casing themselves form an integral part of the torsional stiffness of this car. It's just one of many different features about how material selection has been so key in making the chassis exactly what it should be to support this additional weight and yet still give you the driving profile that you want. That's a lot of words. What it means in practice is when you put your foot down and throw this car around a corner, it feels entirely intentional and so much fun. I don't feel as if I need to put any effort into this at all. And bluntly, I feel like I could go at least twice as fast as this without in any way being bothered about it. And I don't mean that in a bad way, as in it's not exciting. It's very exhilarating and just really cool, because what you're experiencing is technology that just works. And that's really exciting. And what I really want to try quickly here is changing my driving profile. At the moment I'm still in smooth, and I want to see what happens if I flip the system over to something a little bit more dynamic. So let's go with Swift to start with. And as you can see, it takes a bit more attention than I'm comfortable with to switch those modes, but this is Swift. Look at that. A more dynamic driving stance on the road, steering's more responsive. Still, absolutely nothing to worry about at all. The car feels so within the bounds of what it's comfortable to do. Absolutely effortless. Let's kick it up a notch and see what happens then. Now, because I want to keep the eyes on the road, I'm going to ask my cameraman if he would kindly change the modes for me. He'll get a confirmation stream, which is going to ask him to say that that's definitely what he wants. And if we're lucky, I'm going to drop back just a little bit so we can make the most of that while we catch the others. It seems almost a shame to drive through this countryside at such speed because it's so very beautiful. But the handling of the car is also pretty beautiful. Look at that. Just effortless. Just a little bit more precision than you find in the more gentle riding modes. But to be completely honest with you, it's such a pleasure to come here and do this. I think if I owned this car, I really wouldn't take it out of smooth all that much. There's just no need. It's so nicely executed and it still has more than enough power. That's smooth, don't forget. Now it's definitely a little bit softer going into those corners, a little bit less precise. But it's so far beyond what you could reasonably expect. You just don't need the extra, but it's there if you want to give it a try anyway. So the standard driving mode you're going to be using for the vast majority of your time with this vehicle is smooth. Why? Because it gives you more than enough of what you need to enjoy the car. But picture the scene. You're driving home from work, it's been a long day, you're cruising, and then suddenly you get a little bit of open road. Well, why not take advantage of just what that power can deliver? That's how complicated it is to stick it in Swift. Now, before I open it up and show you what that means, I want to talk just briefly about regeneration. So anyone who's owned an electric car before or even tried one understands the concept of regeneration. If you're not familiar with that, basically, as opposed to braking, electric cars are more and more aiming for one pedal use. That means the motors or the batteries are used to regenerate and recuperate the energy lost through slowing down by using a dynamo, and that way you don't have to use the brakes. So what that means though is that you're going to not have the rolling quality of an internal combustion engine car, and that can be quite off-putting while you're getting used to it. So most electric car manufacturers will offer you at least 2 different levels of regeneration while you're getting the hang of it. For one pedal driving, really you want the full beans, so the highest regeneration available, but that's going to feel very unnatural and strange the first time you use an electric car. So most people start off in normal. Now for personal preference, I would always go with a 3-status system. That's off, then normal, then high. Why? Because if you're not used to the technology, it is very off-putting indeed. One pedal driving is something that needs to be learnt in much the same way that using a clutch needs to be learnt if you're only used to an automatic. So I'm a bit disappointed that currently the Lucid only has those 2 states, but I'm more disappointed that currently if you want to change that state, you have to do it through this digital display. Well, I hope this gets captured by the middle camera, but I want you to see what that means. As you've already gathered, I can change these modes with only a cursory glance. I can't do that with a regeneration. If I push down on this, you hopefully will be able to see that the braking option comes up. Now I've already spent too long looking at this display to make me comfortable, and as hopefully you can see, that option has now gone away because I didn't respond quickly enough. What does that mean in the real world? This is on high regeneration. I'm currently driving 60 miles an hour. If I take my foot off, that deceleration is all recuperation. This, by the way, is the acceleration that you experience with Swift. Nice. So not quite the full beans, but I think enough for most people on a regular day. Certainly enough for a road in these conditions, but you didn't tune in to watch standard, boring, everyday driving. So what happens if we want the full beans? Well, first of all, we've got to hit the sprint button, and then in order to make absolutely sure that's what we meant, as is fairly common to other manufacturers, we click on confirm. So now I'm in sprint. And now I don't really care what the state of regeneration is, because what I care about is what happens when I punch down. So the driving dynamics of the car change in each one of these states, softer and more comfortable. Obviously, you're going to get that in smooth and full beans. Ooh, that's nice. Obviously, that's what you're going to get in sprint. Now, as I said, I don't think you're going to be using that every 2 minutes, but the cooling architecture of this car means that in total difference to many other electric performance vehicles, you should be able to do that again and again and again and again. And that's really important. Not because I think you're going to want to do it, but you're going to want to feel that you could if you did. And along with so many other unique innovations, the way that this car removes the heat as those batteries start heating up, and most important, as the electric motor is pushed, is really innovative and different. We're going to talk about that a little more later, hopefully with one of the guys who's worked so hard on this system. But for now, let's put this back in smooth and just enjoy the scenery. Well, in order to do that, I think we have to at least talk somewhat about this roof system that we have here. It's just my opinion, but this looks great from the outside. It's a real innovation. But from an inside user point of view, does it give me anything that benefits me for the experience of having it? Well, I quite like having this floating rear visor. I think that looks cool. The way in which this has been integrated into the top to provide all the access for the sensors and the rear view mirror is also very cool. But is it as cool as being able to drive down this road with a panoramic roof that allows me to taste the salt in the air? No, it simply isn't. Once you start putting this car into a crosswind, the noise from the wind is actually quite significant. And this road surface is good, but once you start driving on a little rough road surface, there's a fair amount of cabin noise from that too. So it isn't without issue on the wind front. Am I maybe imagining that some of that has to do with all glass and no insulation in the ceiling? Maybe. Is that fair? Maybe, maybe not. I think my favorite particular feature is the charging. Anyone who's driven an electric car over any distance knows the misery of being told that a charging point's available, but it isn't, or it's vandalized, or it doesn't work, or any one of another myriad range of issues. Well, they really have figured out a solution to that on this car, and that's a thing called the Wunderbox. Please forgive me, any German guys listening to this. And what that does, on top of a whole range of complex other things, is allows this car to charge more or less anywhere. And that's huge, because although Lucid have partnered with American Energy, I think it is in this country, to provide access to their growing network, which is going to be significant and large. This car and later versions of it will be sold globally, and obviously that will have a different offering arranged for it. But whatever your offering is, Lucid didn't want that to be an issue to this car. They wanted to make sure that wherever you were, you would be able to get access to the power you needed. But for now, what it means is that this car, at a high charge point, will be able to get to a 200-mile range in no more than 12 minutes of charging. Wow. Now they've configured the batteries specifically in order to be able to get that. So far, my takeaways from the driving experience. Excellent seating position, excellent seat. Steering, really precise and nice, let down badly by a spongy, massive feeling steering wheel. So, driver's instruments, further hurt by two short stalks that are awkward for me to operate with my tiny, tiny hands. Braking, well, you don't really need to get into worrying about that too much with excellent recuperation, but I would have preferred to have had more modes of that to offer me more flexibility. Overall, I can tell you that this car really doesn't show you what it's got until you start pushing it. And that's when everything comes together beautifully. So I think they've done an awful lot at answering all of the problems people have with the concept of electric vehicles overall. But that doesn't really address the central question of any car, which is yes, but is it any fun to drive? Yes, yes, and yes is my answer. Am I getting as big of a kick out of this as I get off the Taycan? No. Do I think this is as practical? It's a lot more practical. I'm definitely going to feel better driving my family around in this. I also don't think that it's going to get egged when I leave it in a supermarket car park for looking too expensive or being too cool. I think it's an immense amount of car for the proposition, but more than all of that, I don't see Porsche being able to bring an affordable product to market anytime soon. And this, I think, is going to be incredibly viable to normal people within a comparatively short space of time. Why? Because they already invested all of the money they needed to in making a product that works. That means when you want to make it cheaper, you already spent the money. That means you don't have to recoup as much of the spend in the sales price of the vehicle itself. So I'm incredibly optimistic about this vehicle to deliver real value over the long term, not only for the company, but also for the people who purchased this car.
So which large EV sedan to buy in that luxury segment? Well, the Lucid Air is the most expensive one in all the tests. It does have a very significant high range, indeed, is the leader in that case. However, at that price point, the price-performance ratio is just not that great. Also, they struggle a little bit in production, so the question is if you can even get one. The Nio ET7 is overall a good vehicle. As for the hardware, also all animal-free in the interior. The lack of the turning bench in the rear makes it a little bit inflexible, and there's a lot of beeping stuff and also the quite annoying Nomi assistant and so on. So for European and American customers, it's sometimes a little bit over the top. Overall, still a very good vehicle. The Mercedes EQS also has some great Mercedes functionality, like the ambient lighting, really spectacular. Is also very good in the EV facts, as for the range and recharging. However, you should only buy one that already has a heat pump. They are beginning to introduce that with new model years with the EQS now. Do not buy an EQS without a heat pump, because then you'll end up with a very low range in wintertime. The EQS especially lacks rear seating comfort. The Genesis G80 EV looks like a very good proposal indeed. Also comes with the 800-volt fast charging technology from the Hyundai Corporation. Here the only thing is that in comparison to the combustion engine version, the front seat is way higher, so it can get a problem for very tall people indeed. Also, it does only come with animal skin, which is not suitable for today's electric vehicle, which is supposed to be sustainable. The G80 EV is also one of the best here in prices. The BMW 7 Series, here's the electric version, the BMW i7, scores first place as for the luxury. The seating comfort and the perceived luxury is the best in the BMW. And of course, it also drives well and also scores with good EV facts indeed. If you can get animal-free seats, it depends on the market. For the i7 in the UK, in Germany, yes, in the US, just for the combustion engine versions. And the Tesla Model S, you should not get it as a Plaid. The normal version is definitely fast and quick enough. The Plaid is just, I would say, over the top as for the power output. Well, the Tesla Model S Plaid overall scores the best price-performance ratio. Together with the Genesis, it is best in price. At the same time, you don't have to add much more expensive options or something. It always comes animal-free. It offers the supercharging network and so on, so you get all the Tesla advantages. The only thing I criticize is that it does not come with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Still, a lot of customers are missing that with Tesla, and I think it's just arrogant not to offer it. I would definitely get it with the normal steering wheel, as we've recently also shown to you. So the yoke steering wheel is also, I would say, it's just new, but doesn't offer so much benefits. So my overall conclusion is best in price performance is the Tesla Model S. The Genesis G80 EV is also attractive, but they would need to fix the front seat problem as for the height and also offer non-animal skin interior. The BMW i7 is the best in comfort and overall also, let's say, number one as for the desirability factor. So these are my verdicts for today. Which one would you go for and why? Tell me in the comments, and also join us for more comparison reviews.